Hey, welcome back to the Disconnected. It is Thursday night, and I'm here with a dear friend of mine, Mr. Zachary K. Bryant. Zach, thanks for coming back. Before
Thank
we
you
go
for
any
having me
further,
again.
everybody should always be subscribed to They Live by Film. Make sure you're listening to them. Zach is one of the incredible hosts on there with two other incredible friends. But tonight, spotlight's all on Zach. Zach, how's everything been?
Busy. From the sound of it, it's the same as you, but just busy.
It is a bit busy. Good God, Eric, I am jealous of that. Eric says watched a film for the 102nd consecutive day earlier this afternoon.
I couldn't tell you how many consecutive. I think I like get to like 10, and then I'll take like 4 days off, and then that's usually how it goes for me. I can't ever get past too high in it.
Usually October is the best month for me because I set out to do some of the like horror gives back for unsung horrors and do the 30 days of horror thing, whatever. But I get to like 12 and something comes up with the kids, of course. It's rough. That's wild. Yeah, everything has been busy. I'm glad you're here though. Zach and I are recording for the second time in 2 weeks, which is
Yeah.
super rare for the two of us.
Yeah, usually I feel like I'm on a longer wait list, so it's kind of nice to get squeezed in there a little bit.
We'll be talking more about Zach's other recording here in the next few weeks, I'm sure. But man, I'm stoked about tonight because we get to talk about some big deaf crocodile news, and Craig is in the chat to answer some huge questions from everybody, I'm sure. And of course, it's going to be a fun conversation because we don't really talk enough about westerns on the show. Tonight, we are talking about modern westerns and neo westerns, and the only I guess stipulation that we gave ourselves was that it had to be post 2000, which for a lot of people there's not been a lot that they've been excited about, but I also tend to disagree with that. I had a hard time coming up with a list of 10 because I had so many on my list.
Oh yeah, I started with a list of 20, and then I narrowed it down sort of with some honorable mentions, but yeah, it was kind of hard.
Thanks for that, Cinema Jimbo. Michael's asking, am I hearing about delays with delivery of the physical media advocate from Amazon? My order's been delayed twice. I don't think so. That's rough. Let me know. If anything, I've got extra copies, Michael. If they cancel it again, let me know, and I can send you one for myself here. We can just cancel your Amazon order. What else has been going on with They Live by Film? Let's talk about that first. I know we got a big series that's coming up.
So we should have the first episode out right now. We're talking about the completely non-controversial Lars von Trier. So episode 1 of that has been done with his first 3 features, which are definitely not his most popular, but I actually thought his third one, Europa, was fantastic. I feel like even if you don't like von Trier, it's worth watching that one because it's a gorgeous film. And his World War II film is, of course, his least depressing because that makes sense. And next we'll have Celeste on. We already finished the recording, but that will be up tomorrow morning, where we'll be talking about Breaking the Waves, The Idiots, and Dancer in the Dark. So come be depressed with us this week if you want to hear some Von Trier.
Two giant films in that 3-pack for sure. I mean, Breaking the Waves and Dancer in the Dark are huge, and if you've never seen them, strongly recommend checking them out too.
Yeah, and I mean, we're watching most of these through the Curzon set, which I do have this small rant about their lack of subtitles, which you will hear us talk about a lot. Is insane that there are no subtitles for these movies.
There's no subtitles on any discs in that set?
Only the hard burned in ones. I don't know if they're completely burned in, but they will only do it if it's in a foreign language, which of course Von Trier makes a lot of his films in English. So, but especially his first 2, you have people who have very heavy accents, and it's kind of tough. Like Elements of a Crime, I had a hard time really following what was going on because I couldn't fully understand everything.
What in the world? What?
Yeah, and I was, it's a great looking box set. It really is. But when you get into like the Eternals, you're just like, I guess you can't take the artificial eye to Curzon. Is really where it ends up. Like,
yeah,
it was a choice, and especially because Dancer in the Dark isn't on it either. So I actually ended up buying a DVD of that. that's still wild to me that one wasn't included.
Yeah, licensing on that one or something, right? I think it belongs
I
to
think
a
so.
different
Yeah,
company.
it's anything with music seems to have licensing issues for some reason.
I I hate licensing problems. Anyways, in our chat, Eric says highly recommend They Live by Film's recent 4-part Stanley Kubrick series. Appreciate that.
No, I do. That was a fun series. I think we're going to keep doing this. We are going to go back to doing our normal formatting, but Adam is currently gone, and we didn't think he'd have a whole lot of interest in Von Trier, so it's just me and Chris. But we are trying to have guests on there to break it out for me and just me and Chris.
Have you guys decided anything else upcoming after Von Trier? Is there anything
Um,
else you want to hype up, get people ready for?
we're really just in the planning phase because we don't really know how long Adam's going to be out. For anyone who's not aware, he's having a baby, so very exciting time for him. But yeah, we were really just seeing what goes on there before we commit to anything for sure. But we definitely have some ideas in the pipeline just in case.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, to go from Kubrick to Von Trier, first of all, that's a leap to do two formidable directors like that. I'm excited to see what you guys do next, though.
No, thank you.
Other than that, obviously there's been a lot of talk this week of uh random big things, primarily like I said with Deaf Crocodile. We're going to get into that as we go through the announcements. Normally if there's a big death, I want to highlight it, but today I just want to say congratulations to people that feel some catharsis. Other than that, let's go through some recent watches. What have you been watching recently, or is it all just Von Trier?
That's been a lot. I don't know. I've been going through. I'm going to go on my letterbox so I can sit here and not embarrass myself with my memory. Let's see. Well, I'll be honest. One thing I watched. I've been watching House with my girlfriend. Because that's what I have to watch now to actually like get through a TV show. It's something I can turn on and I don't actually have to pay attention to. But
Right.
she's never seen it. I saw it years ago, so that's kind of where I've been there. Otherwise, I saw Mute Witness since Arrow is putting that out. Fantastic movie, like
Really good
really,
one.
really good. I'm very excited to actually get the 4K of that now.
Yeah, this is one they announced. Gosh, I feel like COVID time, first of all, screwed with everything. So I feel like it was like 3.5 years ago, but it was probably only about a year and a half ago that they announced that they acquired that. And I was like, oh man, the world's about to finally get like a reappraisal of a really great underseen movie. And I'm so stoked that Mute Witness is finally getting out there. Now it's on Shudder. A lot of people are going to be able to stream it, and to get a great 4K release. That's just so exciting for a movie like that.
Yeah, I was really the closest comparison I can have for people who haven't seen it is it reminded me a lot of like 70s De Palma, like the way like some of the shots are composed where you have like close in the foreground and then in the background, the way they shoot like some of the chase scenes in that are fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I was very surprised when I turned it on how good it was.
That's great. As for me, I really only watched one movie this week that wasn't for stuff that I'm working on. But turns out it's a timely thing because today they announced some of the films that were, or the entire lineup, I believe, for what was selected for the Cannes Film Festival. And massive congratulations for Sean Baker going back with this new film, Anora. And one of the ones that I watched this week, I rewatched Florida Project. And I say rewatch, but really this is like a first watch because the first time was not a good headspace. I was not able to focus on it. And this time, just immerse myself and really, really wanted to dive into what I've appreciated about all of his films. And watching his extras on that disc are crazy because there are scenes in the movie where there's a mother and a child that are out in front of, I believe, a country club or something like that. And they're trying to sell perfumes to people as they go in and out. And instead of setting it up as a movie shoot, they set up from far away and they do it as a candid camera shoot with real people other than the actress that's playing the mom and the child. So you get these real reactions to people to feel like they're actually desperate in the situation trying to sell these things to rich white people. And that sort of thing brings so much more to his films. I could talk about Sean Baker stuff all day long if people let me, but if you've somehow never seen the Florida Project, please give it a watch. really, really incredible performance from Willem Dafoe. Obviously, he was nominated for it, so it's going to be good. But it is special compared to a lot of his other films because he's not over the top, but you can still see how much more he can bring to an individual, just everyday person type of performance, and elevates it like crazy. The movie is so well made. I also Subaquatic here. Ben says in the middle of Red Rocket now. I adore that movie. Really, really great movie. But yeah, Sean Baker never disappoints. Big
I
fan
will
of all
say,
of
I haven't seen Florida Project. I haven't seen any of his films. I don't believe it's a big blind spot for me. But I love his Letterboxd review of Florida Project, where I think he gives it like a half star and says it was shot. Ooh, it was shot on digital.
Yeah, that's Sean for you. Oh man. Yeah. Anything else that you recently watched, or you want to highlight any pickups, perhaps?
Pickups. I have. I know I've gotten some. Oh, I got dipped my toe into MVD. Got Vampire's Kiss, and I think they did Wind Talkers as well. Because
They did.
I was real. I was slightly annoyed. I had to pay 20 for Wind Talkers because I was like, oh, it's on Amazon for $8. Cool. I want to see this movie. I've never seen it. And then I was like, wait a minute, there's no director's cut on the $8 one. I was like, which one has the director's cut? And I'm like, oh, of course. It's
Well,
the
that's
MVD
2.5
one.
times that much.
Yeah. So I got that, and then I got into Terror Vision. I haven't got to watch any of them yet, but that's those are fun releases. I've seen Door. I saw Door years ago. Maybe not years, maybe a year or two ago. And I really liked that one. So I grabbed that, and Killers, Parasites, WNUF, and there was another one, and now I'm blanking.
Nice. I got just a couple here from 88 Films and MVD. I got in this very pretty slipcover on this film, Beauty of Beauties. This is the entire release, and normally I'm not like eager to get 88 Film stuff, but this release looks shockingly great. This is one that I am certainly going to dive into soon, and for everybody that's super into packaging, they seem to be doing a little better with the slipcover here. It's still not like a super stiff slipcover, but it's definitely different than their old ones. It's not extremely thin, but it's still not, the new Severin and OCN slipcovers like everybody wants lately. Speaking of OCN, we're going to get into them in a little while with Deaf Crocodile, but here's Deaf Crocodile's release of World War III. Came
Just
in
ordered that today.
from Deaf Crocodile Direct. I am going to be putting that one on soon. And speaking of Deaf Crocodile, Craig in the Discord came on and offered that he had one copy left of a super old, very out of print film that he worked on the Cinelicious days. And so I traded him for Gangs of Wasseypur. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. This movie looks and sounds amazing. I almost resorted to eBay for this years ago, and really glad I held out now. But
I saw the eBay prices after he posted it, and I was tempted. I was very tempted, but I've never seen it, so I was like, I'll wait it out.
Hopefully, he got his box of goodies soon. Yeah, this is exciting, and I think this is. I don't know if he realizes he signed into the TerrorVision account, but I think this is John, who was on just a couple weeks ago. John Daly. Yeah, that's my big pickups this time. Anything else that we want to cover before we go into our announcements tonight?
I think I'm good. I think I'm ready to hear some announcements.
All right, let's discuss some of these announcements. And first, we got Source Code coming out on 4K from Studio Canal in the UK on May 20th. And as far as I can tell, I don't think any of the extras on this are brand new, but hey, 4K Source Code. I don't remember if I've seen this one. I'm sure you did. This seems like a Zach movie.
I feel like my sister worked at a movie gallery during this time, so I'm pretty sure I did. I don't remember it, but I'm fairly confident I've seen it.
Nice. Next up is Kino putting out Are You Being Served the Movie from 1977. This is getting a 4K restoration from Studio Canal from a handful of years ago. I had never heard of this one, but then I went and looked it up, and this seems pretty damn hilarious. And it looks like there was either a TV show related to this or just more related to this this group here. Definitely want to see more of this. I had never heard of this. Had you heard of this one?
No, which I mean, when you come to comedies around this age, I'm about as dumb as it gets. So it's not. That won't say anything about quality. Even the popular ones I probably haven't seen.
There you go. Craig says it's a very popular BBC show. And Brad, that is Brad, by the way. He did confirm in the chat. He says, my grandma loved that movie. Oh, man. Yeah, that seems like a grandma movie. We got more announcements from Sandpiper for the first time in quite a while. These are all coming on June 11th on Blu-ray. The first one is Article 99 from 1992 with Ray Liotta and Kiefer Sutherland. This also has, I mean, it's pretty stacked cast. Forrest Whitaker, Leah Thompson in this. I've not seen this one as far as I'm aware.
So this has Kiefer Sutherland and Forrest Whitaker in it.
Yes.
I just rewatched Phone Booth. How perfect. It's just a sign.
Phone Booth was good, man.
I love
Phone Booth was
dude.
great.
I love it. That's a video store watch that I probably have seen like 100 times in my life.
That checks out. There was another one. I think Forrest Whitaker was in the other one too. Where was it called Vantage Point? That was kind of similar setup.
You see, yeah, that has like Matthew Fox in it, and
yeah,
that's the one about the president assassination, which they totally spoil a big twist in that in the preview. I still remember that. Yep. But I'd say Cellular is probably the closest because Larry Cohen wrote that one too.
Yep, gotta love Larry Cohen. This was a big one. Sandpiper putting out Warriors of Virtue from 1997. And the big one here is this is Ronnie Yu's English language debut. This is a movie that a lot of people seem to remember loving and seeing it on like late night TV quite often. And now it is finally getting an HD release. This is a big deal. Have you ever seen this one?
No, but the cover intrigues me. And that's all it ever takes me to spend money.
I'm all about that. That's for sure. The hard part is it's Sandpiper. I don't think
I tell me a little bit about I'm very unfamiliar with them.
So if anybody in the chat knows more, please say. But from what little research I've been able to do, this is all speculation. So don't put this down as gospel. First off, their fonts and everything is identical to Olive. And if you look up where Sandpiper has incorporated, it's from the same part of the country where Olive was incorporated. I have a feeling the people that were running Olive are now running Sandpiper. And whether there was something that they had to, dissolve the old business or whatever for, but it looks like it's the same guys running the second company. And
okay,
there you go. Brad confirms Sandpiper is Olive reformed. So we can expect about that level of quality. It is a lot of stuff that was on Twilight Time and out of print, and now it is back. It's a lot of stuff that was on Scream Factory, went out of print, and now it's back. There's a lot of stuff that's getting random, like Studio HD debuts that haven't been on Blue before, so it's nice.
I'm guessing, I don't know, maybe I'm judging a book by its cover. I'm guessing not a lot of behind the scenes or pretty bare bones.
There so far as I can tell, there's never been a brand new extra produced for any of these discs, but if they can license old extras, they will. And on some of them, well, first of all, it appears they're doing no restorations in-house. They're just licensing restorations from the studio, but it looks like they're getting old masters and they're not super high quality, unfortunately. But at least they're HD for the most part. Go ahead.
No, I was sitting there thinking, now I can't remember, so it's all good. It's nothing important.
Next one from them is Winter People from 1989. Another one with a couple big names. We got Kurt Russell, Kelly McGillis. This one says, an unwed mother must make a difficult decision when she falls in love with a stranger. The stranger, having been accepted by the small community after killing a bear at the annual winter ceremony, accidentally kills the father of the woman's child. The dead man's family vows revenge and demands the woman choose between her lover and child. This is the first of two random ass titles that I'd never heard of, and suddenly they they sound rather weird. So this is the first one. Let's look at the second one. The second one is called A Family Thing. This is from 1996, and I'm dying to see this. I feel like this is one I absolutely should have seen years ago. This one says, following the death of the white woman he thought was his mother, a shocked Earl Pilcher, played by Robert Duvall, learns he is half black. Shaken to the core by his revelation of decades of lies, an impassioned Pilcher travels to Chicago to find his biological family and meets Roy Murdoch, played by James Earl Jones, his half-brother. Unfortunately, Murdoch refuses to accept the aging Southerner. Desperate for a connection, the grieving Pilcher struggles to convince Murdoch to open his mind. That is a wild, wild synopsis.
See, I was actually thinking it was going to get even more wild because I saw the cast, and when you were like, they specified his white mother, and I was like, wait, is his mom James Earl Jones? Is that the son? I was about to get all excited. He's going to be like Tiptoes or something.
Yeah, this sounds super weird. Very interested to see it. I mean, the fact that Robert Duvall and James Earl Jones are playing brothers. Oh man. Let's see what's going on in chat. Master Chaos is here. My mom's going to bed. Good night. Heard of A Family Thing, but not the other one.
I am interested in the other one. I watch most things with Kurt Russell.
It's great, but pretty tame. Yeah, that checks out for 1996, sadly. It sounds like a crazy setup, but pretty sincere and sweet. It's very boring, way less wacky than you think. I didn't think it was going to be wacky, but just that setup in 1996 itself is pretty wacky. Carrying on, the new film Drive-Away Dolls is coming on Blu-ray very soon at this point. April 23rd, this gets its U.S. Blu-ray debut. And we actually got some decent special features on here. There's a sit down with the cast and filmmakers of Drive-Away Dolls. There is a discussion on what inspired them to write the story and why they waited 20 years to bring it to life. And then a list of road trip essentials. Curious what that's going to be. Unfortunately, it sounded like the reviews for this were not that great. I know you go to the theater sometimes. Did you see this one?
I did. I think I saw it opening weekend. I've enjoyed seeing like each of the Coens do their own project by themselves. Like, I think Tragedy of Macbeth is an absolutely gorgeous slog of a movie. It's very beautiful. I find it so boring. While Drive-Away Dolls, I think, is a much more fun, like, Coen Brothers type story. I don't know. It doesn't have a lot of meat on the bone, though, so I almost feel like that's the separation there between them. It almost feels like if somebody tried to make a Coen Brothers movie more than it is a Coen Brothers movie, if that makes sense. But I mean,
it does make sense.
Yeah.
Ronnie's letting everybody know this will be streaming on Peacock tomorrow, so I will definitely be watching this one soon. We got a question from Eli Cortez. What are my thoughts on the Cauldron release of the Houses of Doom? First off, did you pick that one up, Zach?
No, I have not.
So I'm excited to see it. I've wanted to see it for a long time. I've never been able to see any of the 4 films. I do think it feels slightly overpriced, especially because they're saying it's the special pre-order price, and I think it's gone up since that original run. But honestly, it looks pretty great. It looks like they put a lot of love into it, and then it's 4 discs for films and 2 CDs. So the price, I kind of understand, but I don't know. It's tough. The other big thing, I don't love that they announced it in March, and then it's not releasing till I think it was July. That's a far trip for Cauldron, which also means we're probably getting another Cauldron announcement till like August. So that's always sad. Let's see. Stan is saying we got to get a physical release of Macbeth. Yes,
I do agree with that. Even though I didn't like the movie, I agree they definitely should.
And then Sibner seems to agree with you. You can absolutely see the missing Coen brother piece like an ingredient in the film. Well said. All right. And we had somebody ask if this was getting a 4K. No, as far as I can tell, it's not getting a 4K anywhere in the world, unlike the other Universal title, Lisa Frankenstein, which is getting one overseas.
I was about to ask which studio is putting out Drive-Away Dolls. That'll let us know if we'll be double dipping in like 4 months.
It's Universal, so yeah, give it 9 months and it'll be here probably. Yeah. June 11th, Kino is releasing Narrow Margin on 4K with Gene Hackman and Ann Archer. This one has an audio commentary by Peter Hyams, who did the directing, screenwriting, and cinematographer work on this film. And then an audio commentary by film historian and critic Peter Tonguette. On the Blu-ray disc, there's some making of featurettes, some sound bites, B-roll stuff. And yeah, this one, again, pretty incredible cast in this. We got JT Walsh, Emmett Walsh, Susan Hogan is in this. One that I think I saw this one years ago. This is from 1990, but Kino just really hitting the 4K releases hard this year.
I'm trying to think if I've gotten any 4Ks from Kino this year. I don't think I have. I don't think I've gotten anything from them this year yet.
This year, a lot of people forget this year was already Kindergarten Cop. I don't know if you got that one.
No, I needed to, but I haven't gotten it.
That makes sense. Let's see. Narrow Margin is incredible, says Jose. Kino jumping into that, putting out a print, and then releasing the 4K shortly after. What? Was this out of print by them, and then they put it out on 4K?
I don't know. I'm going Blu-ray.
Yes, Narrow Margin is an SDR restoration on this. So if you go through all that trouble, why not HDR? You already spent the quid. Hard agree, which very curious why, but perhaps Hyams had something to say about it. I don't know. Going to the next title, the Columbo box set that came out in the US through Kino is getting a British release on May 20th from Fabulous Films. This will have all of the same extras, all of the same episodes, all of the same movies and all that fun stuff. But if you are in the UK, you got a chance to get this and not have to pay extra for the Kino import. Next, there's an indicator sale happening right now, and it is, let's see, I totally forgot the day that this is over. Is it not on here? Right now on our website until noon on the 15th. There it is. 15th of April, their site is going to be done with the sale. They've got more than 250 items on sale. Some pretty good prices, and yeah, looks like a decent sale. I haven't got anything direct from Indicator in quite some time. Did you dip into this?
Everything I've ever owned from Indicator was stuff I had to buy off eBay because everything I wanted went out of print. So
yeah, back in the day, their stuff went out of print way faster, it seems like.
And you know, I can't handle just having one copy of a John Carpenter movie, so it's like if they're going to offer it.
Well, and at the time, at least, they had really great releases of two of those. So,
yeah, I have Ghost of Mars and Vampires. I don't know if there was a good Blu-ray of Vampires in the U.S. until Scream Factory.
Correct.
Put it out, yeah. Which I, of course, own that too because why
not? Can we talk about all of the genre launch stuff sold out within the first few hours? There was a lot that sold out pretty dang quick. But yeah, if you have never bought from the Indicator sale, they do some pretty great stuff. Their standard editions are 3 for £15, which is an exceptional price. Unfortunately, it is overseas shipping, so it's something like £18 to ship for like a handful of titles, and it goes up incrementally after
so it's
that.
Like 3 for 40. It's basically, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Awful.
Yeah, after the exchange, that sounds about right. Jeez. Eric says he bought 30 plus items during the last Indicator sale, so trying to avoid this one. Next on the list, Amazon is running a copycat of the current Target buy two get one sale. Same thing as get 3 for the price of 2. It's the same exact offer. Of course, both sales have wildly different items. Funny enough, we're just talking about Indicator. The Target sale has quite a bit of the US Indicator releases. If you were looking for any of those genre lawn titles, you can get them from Target, and they are I believe when I looked, they were like $21. So if you were getting 3 of them, it's like $42 for 3 4K titles. It might be a couple of dollars more.
It's wild to me that a store that barely puts any physical media out sells Indicator.
Yes, I mean they're carried by MVD, and MVD is in most of those the stores, thankfully. Humboldt says, am I missing out on something? Target hand indicator stuff. While you are correct, Indicator has quite a few UK exclusives. Their offerings in the US are much less. Craig says 3 for 2 based on MSRP or the already heavily discounted prices. Well, let's be honest, they are corporations, so Target has been seen to raise the prices ever so slightly. It's not MSRP, but the prices that you see when the sale launches are usually like $1 more than what you get the day before the sale. But it still works out where you're doing pretty well.
It's kind of like Screen Factory, where what did they do recently on a thing with a bunch of enamel pins? It's MSRP 151, on sale for 149.96. It's like, thank you.
No, the Indicator one specifically, since we're talking about Indicators so much on Target, like I said, I think they were somewhere between like $21 and $24. So if you get 3 of them, at most you're paying $48, and usually you're over the free shipping price by that point. So for $48, you're getting 3 Indicator 4Ks for $16 each, basically. That's an incredible deal. I'm into it.
I think the main indicator I still want to get is Night of the Demons. Like, they had an LE of that, and it's the only reason I haven't. I think they still have the special edition in stock, or not special edition, but the standard edition.
Yep.
And I just like can't. I was like, maybe one day I'll find it cheap on eBay.
Maybe we can talk in a little bit.
Okay.
The book in that is incredible, I will say.
Yeah, it's a nice set. I've looked at it plenty.
It is. Next, let's talk about Deaf Crocodile. So we're going to try to get all of these details in here. Obviously, like I said, Craig is in the chat, and he did post AMA earlier. So if you have any questions for Craig, please type them in the chat. If I have seen him answer, I will try to relay the proper information. But let's go through the details here. So Deaf Crocodile officially announced they have completed their contract with OCN, and they will now be partnered with Diabolic DVD. They are working exclusively with Diabolic, the largest independent online distributor of specialized home video releases, that is starting in July as the distributor for their deluxe slipcase edition Blu-rays and other special home video releases. These deluxe editions will come enclosed in a hardbox slipcase featuring newly commissioned artwork. They'll also include a separate 60-page perfect bound book full of essays, photos, and artwork. All releases will be offered in a standard edition as well, which will not include the hardbox or the 60-page book. They're also offering a subscription starting in July that guarantees subscribers the new deluxe edition releases shipped early and with other small perks. The enrollment period will be the entire month of June, so it's not like you need to spend this right now. But if you get a 6-month subscription, which is from July through December of this year, it will be $230. Keep in mind, this is for the U.S. Right now, they are working to see if they can figure anything else out. That $230 will include all shipping charges. You'll also be able to choose a 12-month subscription, which will be $500. And if you pay attention, obviously, that is not just 6 months times 2. They are planning some larger releases in the early part of 2025, which is why the price is quite a bit different there. When we are looking at breaking this down per item, I've seen a lot of people jump to this feels expensive because it looks like $40 per title when you look at 6 months and 1 title per month, but it's not quite that high. It's a little less than that, but also it covers standard shipping from Diabolic every single month. So this is right in line within a couple dollars of all of the other standard, like big hardbox releases from the other boutiques, which are all about $35 to $37.
So does this mean, because I'm dumb, so this is probably an obvious answer, but I just want to make sure. If you have the subscription and you go to order other non-Deaf Crocodile things from Diabolic, would that be part of the shipping?
You know, I had the same question, and I forgot to ask Jesse during the conversation that I had with them. So, Craig, if you know that answer, please feel free to answer in the chat. But I will say it appears that the subscription will only be available from Diabolic, not from the Deaf Crocodile site. So it could make sense on that front if they're allowing that. Craig says it's just about the same of the street price plus shipping. The benefit is you get a cool coin, your stuff ships early, and you get the set it and forget it ease. And then you always get the trading cards that they do every month. And there's all kinds of great reasons to support that way. David is asking, can I get a half sub and then a half sub again, or is this the only chance for 12 months? I think Craig had responded elsewhere that they are not planning on doing another half sub, but they will look into it, so that could be an option later. Let's see some more questions. Definitely looking forward to the next level of Deaf Crocodile. Good thing June is my birthday. We'll convince my wife a 12-month Deaf Crocodile subscription is what I want. Craig says we will likely have more subscription options by June. So that is exciting for everybody else that is an international customer. Let's see. Craig says we were hoping that you could add items to sub shipments, but right now that's not possible.
You see, Diabolic needs to do that. If you want to get me away from Orbit, I will order from Diabolic if I already have something coming.
Yeah, that's a good call. That would be nice. Craig says, if there's a second 6-month option at the end of this year, it will be more than $230. So getting 2 6-month subs won't be a workaround. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That would be really awkward if that would be a workaround. Continuing on with the post here, they say each subscriber will receive a freshly minted Deaf Crocodile subscriber coin. You will get everything early. You will have a guaranteed copy of the next 6 or 12 deluxe edition releases. And every single shipment will still include a random movie trading card. And I just so happen to have, which one is this? Of course, it is like one of the best movies they put out. Here's the Pied Piper trading card that they put out. It's very classic trading card style. You got the film still on the front, and then on the back, there's like stats. There's a cutout of the poster of the film, all kinds of information. There's the Deaf Crocodile logo, and then some random trivia. They're really, really great.
I'm trying to think which one. It's in the other room, so I can't go check. I think I got, maybe, was it Heroic Times? I think it was one of the Russian ones, and I can't remember off the top of my head which one it is.
Nice. What else? All shipping is included for this in the US. You pay once and then sit back and forget that you got it, and there's something coming every single month. And then they do throw in a caveat that there may be months with more than one release if they can get them done fast enough. In those cases, subscribers will get a discount coupon code that can be applied toward that extra movie. So that sounds like a pretty great perk. And then they say, what's planned? Just to entice you to come on, we've got a box set including the entirety of a young filmmaker's filmography, folk horror, animation, fantasy, crime, mystery, silent films, our first 4K HDR release, films from Belarus, Ireland, Russia, Germany, Romania, the Czech Republic, France, India, the US, and more, and films ranging from all the way back in 1926 all the way to modern 2023.
I do have a question for Craig. Are you really, do you think this will calm down like all the comments about why you guys don't release anything in 4K, or is it just going to make it worse? I see it every time it's on a post. I'm sure he's sick of it.
I love all these comments because, funny enough, I was planning on making this joke tonight. Sardis says, we need Craig on one of the cards. Somebody else said it too. There it goes. Chris on Facebook. I'm only subscribing if I get a baseball card of Craig. I want Deaf Crocodile cards where one of them is Dennis Bartok and one of them is Craig Rogers, and you're listing all of the stats for their background, where they've worked, all of that stuff. That would be great. Will says we should make trading cards for all the audio commentary and visual essay people for someone's favorite productions. That is insanity. No, thank you. Eric says Deaf Crocodile should sell those postcards for $40 for a pack of 5. Apparently you can charge that much according to Shout Factory. Love that. Let's go to the next thing, which is their first release. So coming in July on Blu-ray from Deaf Crocodile in partnership with Diabolic is The Savage Hunt of King Stack from 1980. This is, first off, incredible art. Love the way this looks. And this is just the standard release art. I did not get to put the big box set art on here before I was able to do that, unfortunately. This is also the new design that they're going for the back of this case. And just to promote my own thing for just a moment, Craig was awesome enough because he's in the Discord to ask everybody who was in the Discord for their opinion on what is important to put on the back of releases. And so everybody in the disconnected Discord had a say on what would be put on all these films. And so we argued for things like the year of the release, make sure the running time is listed, make sure that we get the language options, make sure that you include a list of all of the bonus features and synopsis. And I think somebody had also stated that we wanted the country of origin, which is on here as well. Up here it says it's a Belarus film. And yeah, I'm glad that we got pretty much everything on here. But yeah, really cool thing. If you ever want to, consider being a part of the Patreon, consider that, because there are multiple labels in the Discord where people like us, they value your opinions. So you can come in and give some feedback on what we want. Craig wants to highlight that the artist for this is Beth Morris. She's designed a ton of their releases. And Chris on Facebook says the case looks like a Criterion case. Very astute observation. They are changing their cases to being, I just had World War III. Let me pull that up. You'll notice the difference. This is the old style with the Blu-ray logo at the top. It's the segmented release. And then the Criterion style release, which I just happen to have next to me, are the ones where it goes all the way up to the very top. And it is the, I think these are Scanovo is the brand that does these. Yeah, they are great looking releases. This is going to look incredible in a hard box from them. And the art for the box looks amazing as well.
I do love I love how clean it looks. I love the cover.
I agree. And Craig says, in a font large enough for the old farts to read. Running time in a large enough font. Yes. Thank you, Eric. I hate the studio release is the worst about that. You go look at that block of all of the credits, and then below that, you'll get a magnifying glass and see running time, 134 minutes.
Oh, and the running time is never in the same place either. So you have to
search
the box like it's here somewhere.
They are slightly thicker too. Correct. Kurgan says, really excited for this and all the upcoming titles. Can't wait for June to sign up. Yeah, this is super exciting. This release looks great, but the big thing, these special features for this first deluxe edition sound amazing. So first off, brand new restoration on the director's cut by Craig himself. Good job, Craig. Slipcase featuring new artwork by David Mack on the deluxe edition. And then this is the Beth Morris artwork for the standard. We've got a new essay by Professor Peter Rollberg. That is in the big printed essay book that they're putting in here. We also have a new essay by Walt Cha, one of Craig's favorite film critics. We got a new commentary on this one by Stephen R. Bassett, who is the comics artist for Swamp Thing. We also have a new commentary by Mike White, the Projection Booth podcast. Take another moment to promote something of my own. I am on the Projection Booth podcast here pretty soon, discussing a Deaf Crocodile film. So keep an eye out for that coming soon. On this also, we've got a new visual essay by Evan Chester called The Wild Wild Hunt of King Stack. And then on top of all of that, a video introduction by filmmaker and author Kayla Janice, because this is a folk horror film, and that is what she's been associated with for the last couple years.
This is the one, I know Craig's going to answer me, but you probably know too. This is the one where they announced like 3 of them at the same time, like a few months ago. Is this the first one? There was like, I put it out at one. I was on their Facebook, I think.
I don't remember if they'd announced this one previously. Craig, you may be able to answer that one. Silent Mandible says, Nepo babies. He's implying that I am Craig's son. Kayla's intro is almost 15 minutes long. Jesus. Yes, they had mentioned this one.
Okay.
Good job. Uh, I love some of these comments. And if that isn't enough Deaf Crocodile for you, I also put out a big, like, 90-minute interview with both Craig and Dennis from Deaf Crocodile, but also Jesse Nelson from Diabolic, who is not involved in a ton of the interviews online because he is so busy with Diabolic and Cauldron stuff. But we discussed the partnership. We discussed a little bit about how it's going to work. But the more exciting thing, Craig and Dennis just flat out announce like 4 of the titles or 5 of the titles that will be in the subscription, including the incredible one that people have been speculating about for years that Deaf Crocodile should be putting it out. And now, here it comes. They are doing Felidae on 4K, or I think it's pronounced, Will correct me because I've already forgotten what we talked about earlier. Felidae or Felidae or Felida. I don't remember how it's pronounced over there.
You don't want to ask me how anything's pronounced, so I'll just stay clear of that.
That movie is an incredible animated film from the early 90s from Germany that people have been wanting for a long time. And the big thing is it's another cat movie. More cats. We have more cats coming. And Deaf Crocodile is the harbinger of the cats.
See, that's why you wanted me on this week, since I have the picture with the cats. It's just like subtle programming.
It was the Deaf Crocodile promo. There you go. Yes, Felidae is how they said it. That's awesome. Your son up from adoption. Wow. And more cats after that is what Deaf Crocodile says. Yeah, they have an incredible slate coming there. Like I said, if you watch the interview, there's like 3 other titles announced. We go over a lot of things, including how some of those films were even made. There's some great stories. We discuss Mimsy Farmer for a little while for some reason. We discuss disaster movies from the 70s. We discuss Val Kilmer, all kinds of stuff. It was a really great random conversation of just a bunch of people that love movies. They even announced that they're putting out one of Dennis's films later this year. So if you want to hear some more details on that, check out the interview if you haven't yet. It's a pretty good one, I think. It's just a fun conversation. Just a little more promo. Zach, what do you have from They Live By, or not from They Live By Film, from Deaf Crocodile so far?
I have all their releases up to, this is why I wish I had them in this room. Arcania of the Galaxy. Is that the
Visitors from the Arcana Galaxy?
Yeah. I got the words in there just in the wrong order. I've got them all up to there because I got that Kickstarter. And then I have World War III coming in. I'll be getting Cat City after that and slowly get the rest of them. And then I guess they'll steal my soul for $500 in summer. So it's fine.
Well, to entice everyone else, the last thing that wasn't included in all this because it hadn't happened at that moment, but now most, if not all, of the Deaf Crocodile titles on the Vinegar Syndrome website have been moved to the going out of print section, and they're starting to go pretty quick. So if you wanted some of those slipcovers, you might want to check out that site. I'm sure eventually that we will be able to get those elsewhere, like from the Deaf Crocodile website, because they still have those. Beyond that, I really want to highlight again that they are putting out the incredible Kinzatza this month. It is just an amazing, epic sci-fi movie that is beautiful to look at, and I'm also a little biased because Will and I did a visual essay on that release, but there's so much that I could say about Deaf Crocodile. Like, I'm honored to have Craig in the chat most weeks, and the last thing that I really wanted to throw out there is, speaking of They Live By Film, Chris from They Live By Film and myself, we were on an episode of the Incinerator podcast last year where we incinerated boutique labels. And the label that ended up winning this, and this happened organically, we were not trying to work together or make it a shoe-in or anything like that. Deaf Crocodile ended up winning and being the only label that survived in our gauntlet. So I really want people to keep an eye on a company like this that cares what people think about. They care what the people that are buying their releases feel. They are truly just fans of film. It's not like they are out here trying to make money hand over fist on most of their releases. Craig and Dennis have honestly probably lost money on most of Deaf Crocodile so far, and this is a way for them to put even more love into their releases. So I hope people will continue to support them and continue to love them.
For anyone who is looking to keep the slip covers, World War III is down to 180 on Vinegar Syndrome, and Cat City is about to be under 300.
And as usual, if you are looking at the Vinegar Syndrome website and you've wanted them, make sure you take a look at their site specifically. They do still have some of these other releases with the slip available there, so you can get them, and they get a little better support when you buy from their website specifically. Craig says Vinegar Syndrome would not sell us slipcovers, but we were able to buy a large amount of the remaining standard edition, so they'll be available at Diabolic in our shop, so you'll still be able to get all the films. Some titles are getting low in stock, but we'll be getting them reprinted with the nice new cases. Very nice. All right. Any other questions for Craig before we keep going through the rest of the announcements?
So are you complete on Deaf Crocodile?
I am. They are one of, I think, 5 or 6 partner labels that I said I like all of their releases so much I definitely want to be complete on. TerraVision, funny enough, was the other one that I decided that very early on with. I think I still am. I may be with Altered Innocence. I may be missing one of the newest few, but they're pretty damn close. And then they've got who else? I think I've got most of Saturn's core. Yeah.
I was up to date on all of Blue Underground's 4Ks, but I'm like 3 or 4 behind on that one. I feel like it's because they announced 4Ks like a year ahead of time, and then I'm like, I'll get to it, and then I lost interest.
Craig says we're also putting together bundle packages for the new titles. Those will be very limited with cool goodies. Interesting. What does that mean, Craig? Is that on top of the subscription? What are we talking about? Humboldt Horse says, Craig, will you adopt me? And Craig says, are you a cat? I am not acting up, Dad. Leave me alone. Let's go to our next announcement then. Next is Air 4444. This is the second of the 3 titles that they are releasing at once. This one is the Mukuro trilogy from 2015. This is going to be region free, and they say that we will hear more information about the pre-order soon. This is going to be limited, I believe, to 1,500 for each of these slipcovers that they have. This says featuring. It's really great, yeah. Featuring gory prosthetics and eye-popping practical effects, the Mukuro trilogy is a female-led horror anthology with 3 tales involving a group of men who murder for profit in Apartment Inferno, a dark ritual in Sweet Home Inferno, and a mother pushed to the brink by her kidnappers in Just Like a Mother. This trilogy is a potent dose of extreme cinema that also serves as a strong showcase of Katsumi Sasaki's talent for stylistic flair within the horror genre. And this is going to be for the first time on Blu-ray with a bounty of special features, including a double-sided slipcover with new artwork, a booklet with an essay by Amber Teagan and photos and old ad artwork, 3 stickers, a reversible artwork Blu-ray sleeve. We've got a director-approved HD feature on here, interview with the Apartment Inferno and Sweet Home Inferno actress Akari Nomura, interview with Sweet Home Inferno actress Mizuki Watanabe, interview with Just Like a Mother actress Aya Takami, some other interviews, including with special effects artists and actresses, and the director, Katsumi Sasaki, plus a making of and a bonus short film, which is almost a half-hour long. This looks like a pretty damn great release from them.
Their releases are great. I was going to go complete on them, but I think they had 2 that came out at the same time. I think they had VHS copies with them too, or something. And
the Centipede and Red Spells Red.
I think I had something financially, like a small crisis, and I was like, I can't do it. And I think they sold out fairly quick, or at least maybe the slipcover editions or something sold out quick. I can't remember the details now, but
Well, I was just putting in chat right now. Ryan Cheek 1000 said it. I've been able to purchase anything from Air. All of the films are always sold out. I just want standard editions. I believe their website has standards in stock, and if they don't have them now, they've been saying in the comments that when these go up for pre-order, they will have standards in stock. So if you've been keeping an eye out on those, check them out for sure. Just be prepared if you're wanting a lot of standards and 3 brand new releases. That's going to be a pricey day for you.
Which I still have their second one with the forest, the 2 forest movies. Don't remind me. I'll never remember the names right now. Their artwork has just continuously gotten better every time I look at them. Like it gets cooler. It gets way cooler than that one.
Yeah, the options on these are great. It always makes it exciting to find. Well, funny enough, I happen to have. I just did the pickup video for the Patreon, so I've got a lot of stuff next to me. But for example, for Run and Kill, they gave the option of getting the classic style slipcover. So I happen to have the folded slipcover that came with that one next to me, and they go all in on this and making it very classically styled. Looks great. Very incredible artwork. Funky Forest and Warped Forest. That's the one. That's for sure.
The one. Yeah.
Silent Mandibles waiting on Thrilling Bloody Sword and one more. They've got that one day they announced 4 movies coming, and I still think they're waiting on those for this year. I'm hoping that the third of these 3 pre-order titles will be one of those 4. We shall see. Next up, we got some release details on Cinema Guild's 4K release of Typhoon Club. Now, this one's going to be a little tough if you picked up the Third Window Films release of Typhoon Club that just came out on Blu-ray late last year, because all of a sudden Cinema Guild is one-upping it already in the U.S. And this one is coming on June 4th here in the U.S. They're also doing a Blu-ray release of this at the same time. This will be a brand new 4K restoration of the movie. We've got some interviews with the director on here. Kiyoshi Kurosawa is interviewed. He's not the director of Typhoon Club. That is Shinji Somai. We've got an interview with the actress Yuki Kudo, the original theatrical release trailer, and another theatrical trailer, plus a booklet with an essay by Chris Fujiwara. This looks like a great release, and if you are wanting the 4K, this seems to be the only place to get it coming up, I believe.
It's not as bad as like Universal the way they do it, but it's always a pet peeve of mine when they have the big 4K on the case and then literally right under it says 4K.
Yeah.
Universal's the worst about it because I think they put it on there 3 times, but just a small little pet peeve.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a big one. Let's go to the next one. Founders Day. This is coming on Blu-ray from MPI on June 4th. This is a 2023 film, and man, this has gotten some pretty different end of the spectrum type reviews. Did you check this one out? Because I know you go for a lot of new horror.
I actually saw this the first day of the year because Regal had it as a mystery movie Monday.
That's right. That's right.
I would recommend it to anyone who's a slasher fan who likes like 90s, early 2000s slashers, because I feel like that's what it's trying to replicate. If you're picky about slashers, it wouldn't be the one I'd go to.
Yeah, I've had friends that say this was awful when they went and did the Regal screening. I've also had people say that they're so stoked this is getting out there to a big audience because they loved it. So I'm eager to see it. I like a lot of slashers, so
it felt a bit nostalgic. I hated the CGI blood. It's just an annoyance with me in slasher films, but beyond that, the kills were at least pretty okay.
Did you go check out First Omen?
No, I'm gonna try to go this weekend. I'm like really behind on new stuff, so I got to see that. Monkey Man, Civil War, Arcadian, that new Nick Cage movie, because I have to.
Because it's Cage,
yeah. And there's one more, and I'm just packed out this weekend trying to see all of them. So we'll see. I'm trying to get.
Did you get to Late Night with the Devil or Immaculate yet?
Yes, I've seen both of those. We saw them as a double feature, I guess, the week they released.
Nice. Craig says, FYI, we plan on our 4K releases to have the same packaging. No ugly 4K logos everywhere. We trust our audience knows what they're buying.
See,
Nice.
that's an answer I can respect always.
Reggie says Arcadian's getting good reviews already.
Yeah, I saw some early buzz with it. I mean, it could have had like a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'd be like, yeah, I'm still there. Don't worry, it's fine.
Next is we got a few different re-releases to talk about. May 14th, Walmart is releasing a exclusive steelbook for the first Dune to come out alongside the release of Dune 2. Funny enough, they call this exclusive. This is just the European steelbook coming out in the US finally. So if you're into different art, here you go. You get the opportunity to buy this one. It won't match the Dune 2 steelbook, but hey, it's coming.
I feel like Dune is going to be that next, like what we see from Evil Dead and Halloween. How many times can we release this movie and people will
Yep.
still buy it? I haven't
It's a
bought it yet because
huge-
I'm like, Messiah's coming out, TV show's coming out. I'll just wait. I'll just wait it out.
It's a huge built-in fan base. So
Yeah.
let's see. Silent Mandible saw my first 2024 release the other night. Yannick by Quentin Depew streaming on Mubi. Nice.
I love him. Yeah, I need to see more of his stuff because everything I've seen I've liked.
Sarda says, do you think there will be a box set of the two? Not only do I think so, I know so, and you can pre-order it now on Amazon, but also they just announced a third film. There's going to be a box set of the three. So I don't know. This is one of those movies that there will be every possible opportunity to buy these movies.
If they don't go for Emperor of Dune, I'm going to be real disappointed. I need people to be like really confused to the point of, do I even like this? Why did Herbert write this? I need them to at least go that far.
Yeah. Speaking of Dune, Dune Part 2 is also coming out on May 14th on 4K and Blu-ray. This is the Steelbook release in the States for Dune Part 2. This is going to be available.
Bucket.
Yeah. You can buy this on Amazon. You can buy this at Walmart. You can buy this many places. The pre-order on Amazon is not up yet for the Steelbook, but it is for the standard 4K. As far as the extras, we're getting a bunch of featurettes. It doesn't look like we're getting a commentary, and the IMAX ratio is not going to be present on this one at all.
Which is odd because they did it for all of Nolan's 4K movies, right? Didn't they include the IMAX
did.
ratio?
I believe so.
And they hate Nolan, so I mean, what does that say about good old Denny here?
Depew has another movie coming this year. Dang.
Hey, I think I saw him on the Cannes list.
Interesting. Speaking of that, Sibner says, I refuse to buy it until all of them are in a box with the IMAX ratio included.
I'm with you. I just
makes sense.
Can't do it.
It's not Dune anymore. It's Dunkachino. Nolan gets what Nolan wants. That is true. He seems to be the one right now. Next is Welgo USA releasing Blind War from 2022 on June 11th. This is one directed by Andy Lau, and Andy On is the star of this one. And our good buddy of the channel, Foo for Thought, Mr. Sean Williams, says this one's pretty good. Pretty good.
Cover's cool. I don't know anything about it, but it looks cool.
Yeah. Decent art. Can't argue with it. And it was a Hi-Ya original, which is interesting to see this get a release now, a couple years after. Next is Michael Keaton in Knox Goes Away from 2023, coming from Lionsgate on May 28th. This one is an odd cast, to say the least. We've got Michael Keaton, Al Pacino, James Marsden, and Marcia Gay Harden.
It feels like this was originally written for Liam Neeson or Gerard Butler, and for some reason Keaton liked the script, and they said, "Sure, why not?"
Or Bruce Willis before he retired.
Yeah, and I'd say that as someone who likes Gerard Butler, like action pot boilers, but I'm just like that feels like who should be in it.
Anthony says this movie looks cool, but only because he is a massive Michael Keaton fan. Next is Studio Canal in the UK putting out a Powell and Pressburger film called The Small Back Room. Now, this is coming on Blu-ray as part of the Vintage Classics line on June 3rd, and the year of the film is 1949. And what's crazy is it's Powell and Pressburger, but because of all of the other giant films they did, like The Red Shoes, stuff like this got overlooked quite a bit. And I'm glad this is getting a new release. And not only are they putting out a new release, they're doing it right. brand new 4K restoration of the film. There is a featurette on restoring the film. There is a featurette with Kevin McDonald speaking on the film. One with Ian Christie speaking on the film. And then there's an archival audio commentary with Charles Barr, some interviews, and a making of. You should be able to get this from Orbit eventually if you'd rather buy from somebody in the US. And yeah.
It's okay. Michael Powell's best movie's coming out next month on Criterion, so that's what I'm waiting for.
It's somewhere by me. I just it's speaking of right here, the better version of it. Buy it.
I know, and
now.
this is the superficial part of me. That Criterion cover looks good. I can't help it. It's a great cover.
Sibner wanted to remind everybody, because I'm not covering it in the announcements, the Universal Rewards programming is ending at the end of July. So if you've got points, you can spend them. I got the email this morning and I went to look. I think I had like 3,000 points, and each of the digital movies that you can download are only 1,000. There was still nothing there that I wanted, sadly.
Oh man, another rent service going out. What a shock.
Yeah. Will says, I just watched the Vinegar Syndrome release of Andy Lau's A Man Called Hero. It was okay, not great. Homo Erectus says that last one with Michael Keaton could have been Bob Odenkirk. I believe he's working on Nobody 2. Nobody Part 2. And if not right now, he will be soon. Let's see. Craig says, I remember this. Seems like they were trying to get in on the success of Nobody. Oh, talking about the last movie still. Sardis says, I thought I saw all of the Powell and Pressburger films. Never heard of this. Powell and Pressburger made more movies than I ever knew. Looks like a great release. All right. Going to the next title. This cover. Wow.
Sure you don't need to edit that for YouTube? Like,
Instagram already flagged it, funny enough.
Of course they did.
I posted it, and then I got a notification that said, do you want to keep this? It will limit the number of your posts that are recommended to people. I was like, yeah, I mean, of course. Full Moon, in late August, they are releasing Swedish Boarding School Girls from 1979. This is a Brigitte Lahaye film. And I think at this point, we're just kind of getting confirmation that I believe Full Moon has access to all of, or most of probably, the Dietrich, who was I believe, German producer back in the years. He did a lot of like Franco titles. I think this was related to it because it came out from overseas. It came out in one of those lines that is all related to him.
So has Full Moon done Franco releases before? I can't remember.
Yes, they've done like 2 in the last year, I believe.
I was about to say, or do we have another label pulling from Franco titles?
Well, I think for Franco, we are now up to Vinegar Syndrome, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Cauldron. Full Moon has done a couple. MVD did one, and there
Blue
might
Underground
even
did too.
Blue Underground too. So that's 7. 7 so far. Will, I'm irritated we didn't get to do a commentary for Swedish Boarding School Girls. I have a lot to say. I mean, you should have called your friend, Mr. Charles Band. We could have been on there. Give him a call. Hey, Charlie, delay the release.
With a cover like that, it'll fly off the shelves. They can't.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it probably will have 0 extras, and it will probably be flubbed in some way. Let's see. We got a chat that says, Brigitte Lahaye is a fascinating woman. Watch any interview with her. Yes, Full Moon has released a dozen Franco films. Not all on Blu-ray, though, right? That's more than what I'm talking about. That top is hanging on for dear life. You are right, Ronnie. And then
there's a reason this is not an actual photo. They could not make that work with real life physics.
Ronnie's first comment, this looks like a very fine film. I would like to watch it. Next from Full Moon is quite different. They are putting out first off, I know I just poked fun at Charles Band a little bit, but let's poke fun at Charles Band a lot. The totally remastered from the original Elements version of the Ginger Dead Man. Totally remastered from the original.
100%.
What does that mean?
Like, we didn't just take like random section. We didn't just take reels 1, 3, and 7.
We didn't stop at the hour mark.
Nobody was going to get past the hour mark anyway. We did not see it necessary.
Oh man,
to finish it.
So they are releasing this one in August as well, but in early August on Blu-ray. And gosh, I don't know what they did, but
I was like, they weren't kind to Gary Busey.
Gary Busey's face is this bad art, or is this just very accurate to the era? Sibner says that's the sanest I've seen Busey in years. Oh man,
that person behind him that is kind of creeping me. I've never seen this movie, so I assume this is accurate to the film in some way.
It's very cheesy. It's a very
Wonderful.
cheesy movie. Oh man, all of the comments. Here's another one. May 7th in the US, we are getting a 4K release of One from the Heart Reprise. Studio Canal in the UK just released this recently, but Lionsgate is handling this one. It will also include the 1982 theatrical cut on the Blu-ray disc. We've got some new features on this. We've got looking at the cast, the choreography, reinventing the musical with Baz Luhrmann. We've got a restoration comparison, new trailer, and then that 1982 cut is on the Blu-ray disc with all kinds of old school special features. I'm just glad this is getting a release in the US with everything that was coming out in the UK.
I do want to thank the reference to the Buffy the Vampire extra on the cover, because it was bothering me, and he's 100% right. 100% right. That is exactly what it is.
Coppola is bound to have a good year. I mean, I'm hoping that we can find distribution for his newest film. It seems like there was some drama with that over this last week, but
it's showing. See, I'm really interested to hear like some reactions from Cannes, because of that, and Costner's Horizon Part 1 is showing at Cannes, and I'm like, two possibly self-indulgent epics that are cost way too much. I'm very excited to see how they got, both of which I'm excited for, but I'm like, Costner, you better hurry up and film those movies in case the first one bombs. Like, go ahead and film them before anybody notices.
Well, and I love that you make that joke, and we also have Yorgos Lanthimos' new film is playing at Cannes too, and it was that exact thing where they, just in case his last movie with Emma Stone bombed, he took Emma and said, let's go make another movie as fast as we possibly can. And it'll be out in just a couple months now.
Oh no, it really doesn't. I mean, I feel like I couldn't even imagine. Like, I always see these like 16 minutes of standing ovation at Cannes, and I'm like, I would be like, do you just stand for that whole time? Like, is there a stopwatch? Does one person have to sit and it like makes everybody else sit? Like, I don't get it. I've never been in a standing ovation that's lasted longer than like 45 seconds.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if they basically they stand up and clap for like a minute and a half, and then everybody's just filing out and they count that.
Could you imagine the headlines if like it was only a minute long, like movie bomb, standing ovation only for 1 minute?
People only clapped for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. What's the problem? Oh God, I forgot this was a part of this. Late August on Blu-ray, VCI is releasing Hillbillies in a Haunted House from 1967. And this one says country singers on their way to Nashville get distracted by a shootout between spies and the local sheriff that forces them to stop at an old haunted mansion. First off, that synopsis already unhinged. But then soon after, they realize that the house is not only haunted, but the headquarters of a ring of international spies who are after a top secret formula for rocket fuel.
What year did this come out?
1967.
It's a little too early for Coke. That was going to be my explanation. It was a little too early.
Thankfully, though, we've got some Lon Chaney Jr. and John Carradine in this to help.
I mean, I'm going to buy it. Just for the cover, yeah. I'll buy that.
If only this could have been based on a true story. Oh, man. I'm from Michael Smith. I'm from Kentucky. Neither that woman nor the gorilla are hillbilly.
I was wondering the same thing. I'm glad he brought that up. I was sitting there like, is that supposed to be like a hillbilly? Like, is he dressed up? I'm confused.
She's in like super formal attire.
But there's a small rip at the bottom. You know, you gotta get people in.
Exactly.
1962, you might see a little extra leg.
Next is Film Masters, August 27th, they're releasing Door to Door Maniac, which you might know this one as 5 Minutes to Live. This is getting a new 4K transfer from the original 35 millimeter elements. And the big thing is this stars Johnny Cash. And this one sounds really great. But on top of all that, this is also going to include a rare bonus film called Right Hand of the Devil. And let's look at the bonus features on this. We got a feature-length commentary for Door to Door Maniac by Daniel Budnick and film historian Rob Kelly. Feature-length commentary for Right Hand of the Devil by the Monstery Party podcast, but a visual essay for Right Hand of the Devil by someone's favorite productions. I've heard of them. Will and I are working on that right this moment, and yeah, we're going to be on this release. Simner, she looks ready to go with some monkey donkey in that gesture. Oh, man. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty fantastic release from Film Masters. There's so much that I could say about what they are rescuing at Film Masters, but the way that they are choosing putting films together just feels special. They're doing great by a lot of people that love some of these older like 50s and 60s films, specifically things that some of them were lost in the public domain. Some of them have been out there languishing with terrible restorations for years because they got scans 20 years ago and those have been released over and over on DVD. But here we go. Door to Door Maniac with Johnny Cash met with Right Hand of the Devil for an incredible release from Film Masters. And the best thing, double feature disc, and it will be like $18, $19 on release. That's pretty great.
There's only one thing that makes me a little hesitant. It's not a totally new 4K transfer. I mean, they've set the standard at Full Moon.
Who knows? Maybe they stopped at Reel 2. I guess we'll never know.
When does Johnny Cash leave the picture? 40 minutes in? Okay, we're good.
All the star power's gone. We can stop the restoration. Oh, God, that's funny. Next, Cohen Media Group is releasing the film Nowhere Special from 2020 on Blu-ray on June 18th. This is starring James Norton and Daniel Lamont. James Norton is in Bob Marley One Love that came out this year. This one is going to have an interview with Uberto Pasolini, James Norton, and Daniel Lamont by Anna Smith, a making of the film and a trailer. And they are going pretty strong in this contemporary classics line that they're doing over at Cohen. Agreed, Chris. The amount of features in 2 films for only $18. Can't beat that. That's Film Masters in a nutshell.
Are they going to pull like Killer's Kiss, like Criterion had that, and then Kino's going to come in and say, separate them, 4K, we're ready to go.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
Can't argue. Next up after that is the last of the week already, which is crazy early for this. May 14th, we're getting another re-release, Mad Max Fury Road, a Walmart exclusive 4K steelbook coming out.
I own 3 steelbooks. I'm not doing it. I refuse.
3 already?
Maybe 3 times on steelbook. I'm not doing it anymore.
Obviously, they're gonna try to make some money off of the Furiosa film coming out, but Mad Max Fury Road is a great film. If you want it and you don't have it on 4K, it's a great looking 4K disc. I strongly recommend it to anybody that doesn't have it. But also,
does this have Atmos?
No, not yet.
Okay, I was like, I might do it for Dolby Atmos.
It's the identical disc, sadly. Humboldt says, did I miss something? Is One from the Heart a bad release? I like this movie, but is it a bad release? No. I think the only thing that's different is if you want the 82 theatrical cut on 4K, you got to buy that Studio Canal release rather than the Lionsgate release in the US. I don't know why Lionsgate is cheap about that. They've done that for a few of the Studio Canal releases. Like they did that for Wicker Man. Yeah. We only got one cut in 4K in the US instead of like they did in the UK. Yeah, Mad Max. There's more Mad Max films coming. There's going to be a lot more box sets. This is another franchise that has been milked to death. If you are okay waiting, just wait. There will be a 4K box set of all of them eventually. You'll be able to get however many films they do.
They've already done a box set, right? Like
they did.
Didn't Best Buy have a exclusive on that?
Did it have all of them? For some reason, I felt like it was missing Fury Road.
I'm gonna go on Blu-ray. Okay.
Or no, it was missing. It was missing the first one on 4K because Kino had the rights, right?
Oh, that's right. Kino does have the 4K rights on that. That's right. which is a shame because
Yeah.
the first Mad Max is awesome. I like it better than Road Warrior personally.
Sibner, I can't tell because Walmart sucks for listing the features, but I do believe it will have the black and chrome edition because I think it's literally the exact same discs. I don't think they're changing the discs at all. The shortcut of One from the Heart is a waste of time. Watch the pretentious longer version. It's a masterpiece.
That's the thing with Coppola, right? Like which edition do you usually want? Actually, that might be the first one where I've heard the theatrical is the worst version because usually it's the other way around with him. He seems to like ruin his movies with longer cuts.
Gets a little a lot indulgent.
Yeah. Like I would say Godfather 3 is a wash. I haven't seen Betwixt yet. I own it and I still haven't watched it to compare it. But Apocalypse Now, he definitely keeps making that movie worse by continuing to add to it. Just leave it alone.
Yeah. Let's look at what's coming out next week, in case you forgot. Next week on Tuesdays, April 16th, we got High Noon on 4K from Kino. Fletch and the sequel Fletch Lives on Blu-ray from Kino. The Werkmeister Harmonies on 4K from Criterion. Affliction, the Paul Schrader film, coming from Shout Select, which is still a very odd-looking cover on that one. City of Hope getting its release next week. Jack Ryan, the newest, what is his name? I never remember his name. The guy from The Office. John Krasinski.
Oh, yeah.
His newest season of that show is coming out, and then they're also doing a full 4K run of the series. You can get the release of Taxi next week as well. You'll Never Get Rich coming out from the Studio Direct. The Peasants coming from Sony Pictures Classics. Joyland coming from Oscilloscope. The Invisible Fight coming from Kino as well. Half Baked Totally High, the awful sequel that everybody says should not exist, coming out on physical next week. And that is it. I am still very curious how Fletch is going to sell for them. I feel like people are dying to get Fletch in 4K, and to announce a film like that is so special to so many people on a Blu-ray in 2024 seems a little short-sighted.
Especially because, Kino usually doesn't have any hesitation on throwing something on a 4K disc.
That's true. But, I mean, the studio must be holding it back or didn't want to give it a 4K restoration. Or, honestly, by this point, it's been 40 years. The elements could be pretty bad, too. So, I'm not gonna disparage them, but at the same time, it does feel a little painful.
I am looking forward to High Noon. I think I have, what is it, Shout? For some reason, I thought Shout Selects put that out, but I think I'm wrong. I'm thinking of Hang 'em High, I think.
Yeah, Hang 'em High, the Eastwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is... Yes, Dustin, they are only 2K restorations. I'm just speculating that it seems like they should have done a 4K restoration on them. Not Kino necessarily. It's probably the studio that's screwing with it.
I do want to note it's cool that a show is getting a 4K release because I actually never thought that would happen. Or it
4K box set.
I think that's cool
for multiple seasons. That's a big deal.
Because I think what is it? Game of Thrones? I think has a complete 4K.
It does.
I'm struggling to think of another one.
I mean, they're not done yet necessarily, but those Disney shows are getting 4K releases.
That's right, they are now. Yeah.
On physical. Well, so far those have only been Disney. Gosh, is that it for shows on 4K? Well, I mean, there's been a couple
big ones in my head, and I'm just like,
there's been some mini series, but mini series aren't quite the same, of course. But like Station 11 is out on 4K. Any other shows?
The Monks are Blu-ray, right, for Kino?
Correct.
Yeah, which is cool too. I've actually been tempted to get those because I think those are cool releases, and I watch that show all the time.
I've been wanting to get them from the sale for sure. I'd love to get them all at once. Sopranos is not out on 4K.
I was sitting here remembering if it was on Blu-ray. I guess it is now.
It is on Blu-ray. I'm watching The Sopranos for the first time right now, actually.
Oh, how far have you got?
I'm in halfway through season 2.
Oh, it's really gonna ramp up. You're in for something.
Yes, Westworld has 4K releases. That's
Oh,
for
yeah,
sure.
that's right. I kind of block it out because HBO broke my heart. That's normal. It's fine.
Chernobyl, that's another miniseries that has a 4K release.
Oh yeah, I do. I do have Chernobyl. I have that weird steelbook that has a typo on it.
I don't remember that. What's the typo?
It may not be a typo. Hold on, I will find it.
While he's checking that, Ian says, "Hey guys, recent acquisitions: Umbrella, Twisted Nerve, First Orbit Order, new Kino Whip in the Body, Radiance's Tony Arzenta, all highly recommended." That Twisted Nerve release from Umbrella is great.
So it says an HBO miniseries instead of a and HBO. That is a weird. I don't know if it's either's grammatically sounds good, but it's weird.
I believe it is supposed to be Anne, actually.
An HBO, a HBO.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay, then that's just me not knowing grammar. That's fine.
Good night,
That's
Humboldts.
They didn't screw up.
Oh, that's a good point from Cinema Jimbo. Nothing wrong with the negatives for Fletch. Universal wants a fortune to license 4K. Beth. I think The Last of Us is on 4K.
Maybe.
I mean, probably. It's HBO. They've been pretty good with it so far. Oh, the Sandman series had a 4K for that first season.
There's a series?
Yeah, the Netflix series.
Oh, Netflix put stuff out. I forgot about that. Yeah, Last of Us does have a 4K.
Yes. All right. I think that's it for announcements and all of that fun stuff that's coming out next week. And now it's time to talk about some Westerns. Like I said at the beginning of the show, just in case you weren't here, we were talking about modern Westerns and neo-Westerns. And the only caveat that we gave ourselves was they had to have come out after the year 2000. So the big thing, why Westerns, Zach? Because normally when it's you and I, we talk about horror most of the time.
I would actually say Westerns are like my second love, so to be. The two things I remember my mom watching as a kid that she got me into was Halloween, which got me into horror, and The Outlaw Josie Wales, which my mom has seen an ungodly amount of time. She said when she was, I think the movie came out when she was 15 or 16. She said she stayed in the theater from the time it opened till it left, just watching Outlaw Josie Wales, and she did that for like a week. And so I have seen that movie a wild amount of times by now. So I've always had a lot of love for Westerns. It's something I probably watch the second most of, though I watch a lot more horror. But Westerns is, if you look at a pie chart, it makes a significant little slice somewhere.
Are there any classics that are like on your best of list for all time?
Best of, I grew up an Eastwood fan, so Dollar's trilogy. High Plains Drifter is one of my favorites. It has gotten a little bit more love now in the last few years, but I always thought it was kind of overlooked in a lot of ways. I loved a lot of I hate that one. I can't sit there. Oh, things like Death Rides a Horse, Big Gun Down. I'm a big fan of those.
Big Gun Down, yeah. Let's see. We've got some lists to talk about tonight. We both chose a top 10, and I had split mine between modern Westerns and neo-Westerns, and then while we were talking, I've gone in and ranked them and sort of combined them. There's going to be a bunch of honorable mentions to discuss tonight, though, because this genre since 2000, like, there are many people that say there haven't been 10 good ones. How are you going to talk about this? There's way more than that, especially if you start getting into the neo-Westerns, because even something, it's not on my list, but even something like Sicario is basically like a neo-Western. It's filmed with a lot of the same tropes and beats, not even counting the fact that when they go to Mexico, everything is yellow tinted like Hollywood always does. But
Breaking Bad, thank you for that.
It is it's beat for beat like somebody chasing a big bad, and the whole film is, you could basically copy and paste it over a different theme and you'd have a full-blown Western.
Yeah, it's a very Americana thing. So, you can stretch this definition quite a lot. I think, there's a couple on mine that, I don't know, I could see somebody arguing they're not, but I think there's just, it's almost like there's this idea that we only tell the same 7 stories over and over again. I think Westerns are like that a lot. There's just certain stories that just feel like a Western. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the setting changes, but I tried to keep mine as close to traditional, I'll say, as I could, to not have too many people yell at me for putting something weird on here. But I had to be a little controversial, I guess, with it. But
I've got a
yeah.
couple that are going to be kind of weird. I think I've got at least one that I think somebody's going to argue that it's not a Western, but it definitely feels like a Western. I just
I don't want to
realized,
spoil anything yet. Do you have a sci-fi movie on there?
yes,
I'm wondering if we have the same one. So that'll be
I
fun.
think we do. Amazing. I think we're gonna have some that are the same because I know that you and I both like some of these for sure. Something happened, and I had a list of 10, and now I'm showing 11. When I was reordering them while we were talking about announcements, I might
One
have
grew.
copied one.
I will warn you. So normally I will go ahead and spoil what would have normally been my top two, and I decided to leave them off because I feel like they're talked about a lot, and for good reason. They're phenomenal movies. No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood are not on my list. I purposely left them out because I don't know. I felt like it'd been a boring list for me because I was like, let's just put all the 2007 westerns up here on top. Okay, we're done. So I was like, I'm going to cut them out as
I
hard as it
didn't stick
was.
to the same rule. I only have one of them, but I will be talking about it.
Yeah, I was just like, I just couldn't do it. I was like, I because there were so many I wanted to talk about, and some of them that I don't think have gotten like a lot of love. And I'm just like, I'd rather talk about them than tell everyone that, hey, did you know No Country and There Will Be Blood are really good movies? And then just listen to me talk about how they're good movies. I can't say it in an interesting way.
It's really funny.
That's hilarious. There Will Be Blood's pretty good.
Well, we'll argue in a little while then.
Okay.
Let's go through. We're gonna go from 10 to 1, and as we're going through, please by all means on the chat share your thoughts on some of these films, how you feel about them as a Western, because again, some of these are gonna be like you have to specify why they're a Western, because neo-Westerns are going to have the beats from Westerns necessarily, but they don't scream Westerns to a lot of people. So we shall see. Let's go with your number 10, Zach. What do you got?
I'm going to go ahead and throw out my one honorable mention that I wanted to put on here besides the two I just mentioned. I tried my hardest to get this in my top 10, so I really want to take a second to talk about it. Is a movie by the Zellner, I believe they're brothers. They did that show, The Curse. They're doing that Sasquatch Sunset movie. They had actually done a Western called Damsel, which has Robert Pattinson in it. Essentially, Robert Pattinson goes to this preacher saying, hey, this woman I'm going to marry has been kidnapped. I need you to come with me. So when I rescue her, you can just marry us. And without spoiling anything too much, it is not as it seems. It's a huge deconstruction of like that kind of hero archetype. And it's a very funny movie. It's a very sad movie, which they seem to be very good at, like kind of mixing those because they did, is it Kimiko's Treasure Hunt? I don't know if you've seen that, but it's like a girl goes to look for the treasure in Fargo. So it's a good movie. So they make pretty different stuff, but that was my honorable mention. I just could not get it passed because of the other ones. But my number 10 is The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada, which is directed by Tommy Lee Jones. I watched this movie for the first. It's one I've went back to repeatedly over the years. I first heard about it probably early days of Reddit. Somebody had recommended it, and the only way you could get it was actually Sony's Made on Demand program, which, credit to them, they press their discs that are made on demand, but that is how you have to order it. It took me a while to get it, but essentially the movie is about Tommy Lee Jones plays this rancher who has a Mexican worker with him named Melquiades Estrada, who is found dead. And at first they just kind of give him a cheap burial for the county because he was just randomly shot. They're not going to investigate it because he's probably an illegal and they just don't have any interest. He was killed by a border patrol guy, and essentially Tommy Lee Jones forces him to carry the body back to Mexico, back to his home, to try to make this right. It has a lot of feelings of Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. It almost feels like very much a spiritual remake of that, which is a top 10 movie for me of all time. Just really cool. It can be really gross at times. Really, Tommy Lee Jones hasn't directed a lot. I think this was the first thing he ever directed. and it looks great. It has Dwight Yoakam in it, who's always somebody I will happily watch when he shows up randomly in a movie. So that will be my number 10.
Was this the one? I think it was 101 Films released it fairly recently in the UK.
Let me see if they did. I might have to get it
Because I've not seen this one, and I've been wanting to see it for sure.
Oh yes,
I will say
101 did. Sure did.
Sweet. I'm gonna have to check this out.
Order
that. I tend to trust your feelings on a lot of these. Yes.
What about you? What's your number 10?
Well, I'm going to do the same as you. I've got one that didn't quite make my list because I'll say why, but I think it's one that deserves to be talked about. And funny enough, the reason why I didn't want to include this one is because it gave me a lot of feelings of a lot of the Westerns I watched when I was younger that I hated, but I trusted the art in this one a whole lot more. I really want to shout out Kelly Reichardt's Meek's Cutoff, and I'm not sure if you're going to mention it, but
I'm not. This movie, fantastic.
This movie is so well made. The cast is incredible, and Kelly Reichardt really comes with that Western approach to a few of her movies. And what you get in this movie is special. It feels dangerous in the scenes that it needs to be dangerous. It feels so isolating in this film. Just really well made. If you've never seen it, please check out Meek's Cutoff. Got a Blu-ray release, I believe, from Oscilloscope, and it's a pretty good disc. But the movie itself, Kelly Reichardt is a master of modern film. All aboard Kelly Reichardt.
Yeah, I think I always wonder part of the reason, like obviously in like film circles, she gets a lot of recognition as she deserves, but I feel like it's because she doesn't really have a thing. Like she doesn't put herself in any sort of box. Like I don't think she has any other Westerns. It's just like if she does,
First Cow maybe.
Yeah, I guess that could kind of count, but that's so different than Meek's Cutoff. But it's like I feel like that makes it almost hard for her to get like sometimes the recognition she needs or deserves.
That was good timing, Dustin. Right after I said it,
I need to rewatch First Cow. I watched it on a plane, and that was not the place to watch it.
Yeah, that's a bit of a slow one to watch. So my number 10 is another one that feels like a very obvious pick to me, but I know you and I both have talked about the Coen brothers quite a lot. True Grit had to be up there. I appreciate so much about this movie, primarily like the acting of somebody that you did not expect to be such a great young actor that came out and owned this role, and now she's in all this other stuff and just this massive star. But obviously the star of this movie here is Bridges, and the bravado that he brings to this, and like I don't know, it's such a weird role to play, but it's like it was tailor made for him. This movie is such an interesting take I think it came out in 2010 or 11, somewhere around there. And around that time when there were so few Westerns to come out like this, and the Coens just said, fuck it, we're going all in on it. And Bridges just owned this weird lumbering character that is inherently Bridges, and it's a Western through and through. Matt Damon's great in it. Everything about this is fun to watch. This was a really great theater movie, which
I didn't get to see it in theaters, unfortunately.
A lot of Coen brother movies are sometimes, like, I don't know if it's for everybody, but for me, they're sometimes better on rewatch because at home they just sit with you different. But I think this one primarily was great in the theater with a decent crowd. Loved seeing this one. I mean, Bridges is amazing. That's what holds this down.
And Bridges is such a right character for this, because or the right actor for this. Obviously, John Wayne is his own status. I have very mixed feelings about John Wayne as an actor. But you gotta have like, he's good in True Grit. I think Bridges is beyond a lot better, but it's because he didn't worry about, well, how did Wayne do it? It was just more of, you look at the guy who made Starman and made interesting choices with an accent and a character. That's what you needed. That's exactly what you needed for something like True Grit. Somebody who's just going to kind of get a little weird with it and make it its own.
Yeah. Definitely made some choices, that's for sure.
Memorable. It's memorable.
It is. Absolutely is. All right, sir. Number 9.
All right, number 9. What did I pick for number 9? Actually, gotta go back. Speaking of, I mentioned 2007 westerns. I have 2 of them on here, but neither of the 2 I mentioned earlier. This is a remake, so following right in your footsteps is
310.
James Mangold's 310 to Yuma. I guess my hot take is I like this better than the 53 version. I think it's 53. The 50s version. I like that movie. I think this kind of mixed more of what Leonard's style of dialogue kind of became a little bit better for me. Like, because I'm a huge Elmore Leonard fan. I especially love his crime novels. I like his westerns. Hombre is a masterpiece, but I typically read a lot of his crime novels, and I think it got a little bit more of that energy for the remake. And I think Bale and Crow are like fantastic in this. Their chemistry is great, especially the last like 30 minutes when you get more Ben Foster. It's awesome.
Ben Foster is always amazing.
Yeah, and he will probably show up on this list again. Hint, hint.
I was not surprised. And my hot take, well, it's not a hot take because it's not a take, but I haven't seen that one yet, so don't.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the whole 310 to Yuma better than the original. I don't think that's a hot take anymore. I think that's kind of
not. I think it's because I hang out on a lot of like Criterion circles, and that is like blasphemous. It is so blasphemous to say. You know what? James Mangold made a pretty good movie.
He really, really did. Speaking of good movies, this next one is not normally the type that I would go for, but I got to give it to him. He got an Oscar for it, and I think he deserves it. My number 9 is Leo DiCaprio in The Revenant.
Okay.
This movie is harsh in so many different ways, and obviously we could talk about the bear scene for all of its flaws and problems, but the acting that he pulls through this, being like the main person carrying the vast majority of this film, he gives a hell of a Western performance, like full on that one hero that you see from the opening credits to the closing credits that carries the film, that you are sympathetic to, that you're taken aback when he looks like he's beaten up to the point where he's about to die, because that seems to happen in so many westerns, and then he lives through it and becomes the hero and carries on. Like, The Revenant it's a great modern movie. It's not my favorite Leo by far, but I gotta give it to him. This one worked really well.
Yeah, I think what kind of soured a lot of people, and I don't want to use, maybe sour is too strong of a word, but like I feel like people kind of wrote off his performance because admittedly it felt like a makeup Oscar, because for some reason he did not get it for Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
And he's still great in this, and I think it sucks because I do think Hardy is better in this movie, but they're both given like phenomenal performances.
Yeah.
Like that like I think about that scene where he's talking, like Hardy talks about like God being a squirrel, and I'm like, man, you put that in a mediocre actor's hands, that is a terrible scene. But he sells it so well.
He really does. And I honestly would agree Hardy is probably a touch better, but Hardy doesn't feel like he is in that Western role. I think DiCaprio really is what kind of fulfills that, even though there's plenty of tropes on the Bale side too. Love, this movie is just great. And honestly, this is one that gets better and better after every watch, I think, just because you understand the journey that they're about to go on, and you're a little more sympathetic at the beginning. Could just be me, but man, this movie gets better every time I watch it.
And it's sad because I don't see it end up in a lot of like retro theater stuff. I mean, it's not that old. Obviously, it's not even 10 years old. But it's one that it really, really needs that big screen experience with how gorgeous it looks. Like,
Yep.
It's really good stuff.
All right, sir. Moving on to number 8 already.
All right. So I'm going to move out of the U.S. for a second, and we're going to go to another neo-Western on my list, which comes out of good old Australia. Red Hill from, I got to make sure I got that right, 2010. Have you ever seen this one?
I have not. I thought you were going to another one that I will be talking about.
With Red Hill, for anyone who hasn't seen it, basically your standard stuff. Rookie cop ends up in this town, and right around this time, this convicted killer who is a Aboriginal man named Jimmy Conway, ends up escaping prison and is seemingly going after trying to kill the cops of the town. It is not as it seems. It is beautifully shot. There is like, you can almost see like the main, we'll say villain, as almost a slasher villain from the way he is, just like, he almost feels like a boogeyman from the way he is from scene to scene. And you have these cops doing these, like, the siege narrative. You see them going throughout the town just trying to stop this guy, as the rookie cop guy just tries to kind of get an understanding, because he doesn't feel like he has the complete story that they're claiming. So really underappreciated, really fantastic movie. I highly recommend people check it out, because I don't hear a lot of people talk about it, unfortunately.
I have not seen this one, and of course, Paul from Australia is saying it's so good.
Hey,
Definitely need to see this. I've heard about this many times. Just desperate to see it. Desperate to see it. Let's go to my number 8, which is the first time
Book of
that
Eli.
what was that? Book of Eli?
Is
Were
it
you
Book
gonna
of
say
Eli? Is that what you're going to tell me?
no? Did you see the chat?
I did.
So Simner asked if it's a Western. I said no, it's a road movie, and a movie I hate. My number 8 is the first time that we're going to talk about a filmmaker that has become what is the Western for most modern audiences. So we're going to talk about Taylor Sheridan, of course, and the one that I put on this list at this spot, at least, is Wind River. And this movie, first of all, Jeremy Renner is great, and obviously Olsen is great, but I still think my favorite part of this entire movie is the performance from John Bernthal. He is just so easy to hate in pretty much everything that he does. I've loved his performances, and always hated his ability to embody bad people so quickly, which is why I loved when I turned on Origin from Ava DuVernay last year, and he's this just like house husband of this amazing writer, and he's super wholesome and all that. And then not really a spoiler because it happened so quick, but he dies in like 8 minutes in that movie. But yeah, John Bernthal in Wind River is God, this movie goes hard. It is brutal. It's a snow western, which is always great. It is one of those things that the way they film this is so isolating, which is a key theme with so many westerns, of course. But it is done in a way, because it's winter, that it's so much more brutal that everything it just hurts to watch. And many of these movies, you feel dry, or you feel like you're lost, but with Wind River I feel like you get everything surrounding all of those feelings in one. And the common revenge story, which you're going to hear in most of my films tonight. This might be my favorite revenge story that we've seen in the last 10 or 15 years, other than the movie Revenge, which you and I both love. But Wind River is just shockingly great. This movie's incredible.
Oh, it is. And technically it's Sheridan's second directorial effort. He directed a horror movie called Vile. But in all honesty, this is really his first go around in the director's chair. And he does such a good job in it. I mean, when you're following up someone like Denis, and you're following up Mackenzie for Hell or High Water, to keep that kind of thematic trilogy going with your own style, and still, not making it feel like a lesser quality, is very impressive, because you have some more established people making his first two written efforts for this. I love Wind River. I saw it in theaters. I fell in love with it. I probably like it better than Sicario, but Sicario is still great.
I agree. I'll spoil it now. Sicario is not on my list. I love Sicario, but I would much rather watch Wind River than Sicario, I think.
It's got this nice balance, and I know there's people who haven't seen it. I just saw somebody comment, so I will not spoil anything. But it's got this interesting sense of catharsis that isn't quite what you'd expect, but it's still a very fulfilling movie, even if it's kind of bleak. It almost feels like I'm gonna mispronounce his name. Green Room guy, Jeremy
Saulnier.
Like, kind of his tone he goes for stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Like there's this hopeful bleakness, I guess is maybe the word for it.
It's a very like nihilistic ending.
Yeah. Yeah, but it doesn't leave you feeling like pissed off at the end. It's just more sad.
Yeah. What is all this worth? Unfortunately.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Sheridan. I haven't seen all of Yellowstone. I know there's tons of controversy around Yellowstone, so I can only touch on his films he's directed and he's wrote. But I always loved the way he told Native American stories. Especially, I'm not someone who can speak on if they're accurate or if they're as good as they seem to me, but I have always been very impressed with that he kind of avoids the stereotypes when it comes to Westerns like that, because that would be easy to fall into. And I think he writes it well.
A lot of other directors avoiding the stereotypes for them would have been avoiding the story altogether. And Sheridan does not do that. He will lean into it when he needs to. And I'm glad that he does.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, sir. I think that brings us to your number 7.
All right. I guess it's time for me to get controversial on definition here. I think it's the only one people might argue with.
I think we have the exact same pick at number 7.
Prospect?
No. Okay. We went different. My sci-fi pick's at number 7 too. So
okay. Well, I chose Prospect, which has good old Pedro Pascal in it. It is if anybody here does it's Gunpowder and Sky. Is that the company?
I think so.
Yeah. That was probably their first release, but really fantastic, like lo-fi sci-fi, but essentially it's a prospecting movie. Like, it takes place in the future, takes place in space, but at the end of the day, they are prospecting for minerals. And basically, Pedro Pascal is really good at playing the guy who takes kids that aren't his and forms a father-daughter relationship. Same thing here. Essentially, at the beginning of the movie, he ends up being part of the reason her father dies, who is trying to prospect for some stuff, and kind of forces her along to kind of help him get the location of stuff. Really cool dynamic. I mean, where it kind of goes, but it does follow like the Western tropes that you want and expect very well. I mean, obviously, they're going to form a connection and things like that, and it's fun to watch. It's well acted. That would be my number 7.
I've not seen Prospect yet. I definitely need to. I've heard great things. I believe it was their first release, which was incredible. Like, to come out with that and have it be a 4K release, have it be your first partner label release, and have it be a film with Pedro Pascal was like, wow, this is big. That's a great pick. Again, I've heard that it's great.
So
my number 7 sci-fi pick is probably going to ruffle some feathers too, but I definitely want to lean into this one because I walked away from this thinking 100% this is a neo-Western. And I'm going to go with Jordan Peele's Nope as
I agree.
Western.
You are not going to get any criticism from me. It is his Tremors, which is also a Western. So I am all there with you.
Everything about this movie is about essentially a foreign body just completely overwhelming your land and the way that you defend it. So the fact that the fact that you see Daniel Kaluuya riding on a horse means nothing with the Western trope. Obviously, it's just leaning into the fact that it hits a lot of the same beats, and it was a stylistic choice. But beyond that, this movie, if you put it up against many of the classic Westerns, it checks off so many of the boxes. And again, I know it's fairly new, so I don't want to spoil any of these, but Nope specifically is one that as you're watching it, you feel these people are in danger. You feel like they're facing invaders, and they're put in a situation where they are, trying to defend themselves against an enemy that they don't know everything about. Hell, technically, they don't even know if it's an enemy. They just know that there's something funky going on, and they have to find out what's going, to happen to their land and their family and all that. But the way that they approach the unknown, it really feels like that expedition aspect of Westerns. And when you compare it to some of these other classics that are going out into unknown land, that it gives you a lot of the same feelings. And the way that Jordan shot this movie, it is a Western through and through, I think. I love this movie. This is probably I don't think it's my favorite Jordan Peele. I probably have some of the most controversial rankings for his movies so far, but I think it is his second best and probably the one that I want to rewatch the most out of his 3 films so far.
Nope is my favorite Peele. I've said that over and over. I mean, I compared to Tremors. Tremors is top 3 film for me.
Same.
If we were doing a Western ranking from forever, that would probably be my number 1. It's a big love of mine. But no, Nope is so great. It's a beautiful movie. It's beautifully shot. It probably has my favorite score from that year, which is The Run, which is towards the end. I think that's it's a phenomenal soundtrack. But that one in particular, it really like drives home like a lot of the Western ideas, and it's a cool movie. It's so much fun.
Glad you like it. Yeah, we've got Sibner saying Nope is a nautical film on land. That's interesting. Let's see. I think there was another one. Happy Optimist is throwing out Cowboys and Aliens. I still have never seen that one.
I haven't either.
No.
I need to. My girlfriend loves it, and I still haven't seen it.
All right, sir. Number 6. Now that we've left the sci-fi land, I think.
All right. So everything else should hopefully not be too controversial. We'll see. I think this is one you mentioned that you were going to pick an Australian one. So we may be talking about a similar one, which is 2005's. He'll be directing Blood Meridian here. The Proposition with Guy Pearce, who I'm a huge fan of. If he's in a Western, it is fantastic. That is what I've learned.
Amazingly enough, this is my number 6 as well.
Sweet. That'll make it easy. Yeah. Proposition is another one. I am a huge Nick Cave fan in general, his music and him as a writer. He does not wrote much, but when he does, it's awesome.
Yeah, this movie, like I mentioned, revenge being such a common theme in all these movies. This is another great story of revenge. This is another one that the acting alone will suck you in. There was a 4K release of this that came out in the UK. Strongly recommend everyone pick this up. It did not get enough love that year that it came out. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. I think it was 2022. But
yeah, because I bought it at Orbit. I bought it in store at Orbit. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a special release of this movie, and again, an Aussie film that deserves love. And Guy Pearce. I mean, like, there's so much that you can say about this. I strongly recommend checking it out if you've never seen it. They really go hard on the filming of this in a way that really gives the landscape the attention that it needs, and Guy Pearce just shines. But that BFI release is incredible.
Yeah, and it's you talk about a Western, and I think what has attracted a lot of people to it is essentially the guy given the proposition. He's someone you expect to hate. I think he's played by Ray Winstone. It's been a little bit since I've seen it, but I'm pretty sure that's
right.
Him. You really feel for him too. Like, the movie does a great job balancing who these characters are and keeping them out of very nice, good, and evil boxes. And it's another bleak watch, honestly. Like, you go through it and you're like, oh yeah, I'm depressed. That's fine.
My number 5 is a super bleak one too. In fact, a couple of mine are pretty bleak.
Yeah,
I'm noticing something about what I like.
Sort of Westerns, right? Like, I mean, it's an unforgiving. The idea is it's an unforgiving landscape. Like, it's supposed to be hard.
Yeah, and that's again, to go back to what I said on Nope. Like, a lot about Westerns are the idea of forging west, even metaphorically, like setting out into the unknown and trying to survive in what you don't even know is coming. So yeah, Proposition is absolutely incredible on that front. I might watch this one this week. It's been since that 4K came out that I put in the 4K to check how good it looked, and then watch the features because I'd watched the movie like a couple years earlier. I think I might rewatch this movie soon. I love this movie.
It's so good, and that 4K does look fantastic. They did such a great job. I did want to point out somebody talked about Lawless. I love Lawless as well. That is a great one. That's one of my favorite steelbooks. It's a really subtle one, but it's got like the bullet holes, like what's the word? Debossed. There we go.
Yeah.
Austin's own it's a very simple one, but I've always liked it. Great movie. And a lot of people have been hating on John Hillcoat for getting the Blood Meridian. I think he can do it. Like, Blood Meridian is one of my favorite books. I think he can do it. gonna be hard, but I'm excited.
We shall see.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So,
Moving on to number 5.
all right. Well, I'm just gonna keep Guy Pearce going. Let's talk about Brimstone.
I have yet to see this one too.
It is. If you think of the proposition as bleak, this like brings it to another level. This is a very difficult watch. Like I saw it, and we actually talked about it for the podcast. So if you want more thoughts of me rambling about this movie, Adam hated it. So that's a great one to listen to because we very much disagree on the film. It's beautiful looking, but there is not very much happiness in this movie. You're basically watching a woman getting tortured for years, and her being able to like fight against that, and that is not easy. If you haven't seen it but you're ready to like hate yourself like for the rest of the day, I highly recommend it. Another snow western, so always wanted for the snow.
Sand Hamwich is a little negative on the Blood Meridian movie. We shall see.
They're using Cormac McCarthy's script, which gives me some hope. Like he's kind of been mixed on a screenwriter, but I feel like he's the only one who's going to be able to adapt it, and I'm glad he wrote it before he passed away. So I'm trying to remain hopeful. I hope so. At least James Franco isn't directing it, which was what it was originally going to be.
That is a win-win for everyone.
Child of God is one of like he adapted McCarthy before, and he tells a story, and I don't think he understands that McCarthy was like making fun of him. Essentially, he's like, "Why did you decide to write a story in the perspective of a pedophile killer?" And he's like, "I don't know. I guess I was just fucking bored or something like that."
Oh man, I love that just nonchalant response.
Yeah.
My number 5, I have a feeling is likely going to be higher on your list because I know how you feel about this director. I got to talk about S. Craig Zahler's Bone Tomahawk.
It is higher. It is coming up, so we can go ahead and talk about it.
So this movie obviously is one that a lot of people love, and a lot of people that love horror love this movie, and for good reason. It is brutal. It is essentially a searching film, and when they find what they're looking for, they get even more than they're bargaining for. It's famous for a very specific scene, but really, this entire movie lives and dies on an incredible cast. I'm still shocked with the performances that we get out of this entire film. Specifically, Patrick Wilson and Matthew Fox are like not at all what I expected to see in this. Of course, with Kurt Russell, you've got exactly what you come to expect. But the big thing is that this movie is fairly light on plot and delivers on every other front to make it not feel light in any way. The way the landscape is portrayed in this is just obviously incredible, and Zahler somehow in every single movie that he's made, and honestly, you could kind of argue some of his other movies feel like they hit some Western tropes. I probably wouldn't go as far as calling maybe Dragged Across Concrete could be seen as a neo-Western, but
yeah, I love Dragged. I've always put it more into the noir.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it definitely carries it. I mean, he started out as a Western novelist, so
exactly.
I'm sure that sticks around, like when that's what you started with.
Yeah. So this movie, again, I know that still somehow in 2024, a lot of people have not seen this, so I won't hit any of the beats, but just watch this for the performances. I mean, you even get Sid Haig in this for 37 seconds or whatever that he's in this movie, but
time well spent.
this entire movie is it's just well made and just an incredible modern take on a very bleak story, especially a very bleak ending.
And one thing, and this is going to be a pet peeve of mine, which is a pet peeve in general, like anytime there is a director who focuses on violence and dialogue, they're like, it's a Tarantino ripoff. If you listen to anyone and didn't watch this because you heard it was a Tarantino, it is not a Tarantino ripoff.
Not even a little bit.
Like, the way they use violence is completely different. Their dialogue is completely unique. It is not a Tarantino ripoff. And I hear that for so many movies. It's like, oh, it has good dialogue, Tarantino ripoff. I'm like, No, other people can write good dialogue, guys. It's fine.
Tarantino's pretty well. I won't say he's bad at dialogue, but man, his dialogue gets pretty grating.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely like a super stylistic choice, but I hear it a lot with like with Zoller. I've heard that comparison. I heard that comparison with Bad Times at the El Royale, which I
Yes,
also highly disagree with. That's a Tarantino ripoff. Like it's like, guys, people can be stylish. Like, it's fine.
exactly.
But yeah, we'll be able to skip over Bone Tomahawk. But it's gonna be a little bit for there. Somebody mentioned this. I think it was Anthony for my number 4 that he had a pick for, which is Rango.
Rango is my number 4.
Oh, sweet! I love Rango. I love this movie to pieces.
I thought I was going to be the surprising one. Damn it!
Oh, sorry, I took a little of the wind out of the sails.
I love it. Yeah, tell everybody about Rango.
So one of the greatest scenes that Gore Verbinski has ever directed was in this film, where he has moles on birds where they are playing banjo to Ride of the Valkyries while they are shooting back and forth of each other. That is the greatest scene he's ever directed. It is in this movie. It is awesome. If you have not seen it, please go watch it. It is great.
Pure cinema. This movie, I mean, there are so many references in this. First off, real big shout out. I'm shocked that this is getting a 4K release in like a month and a half or whatever. I'm still amazed that the studio is putting in the time and energy to give this a 4K, because it did not like it. It made money, but it didn't have like the gangbusters money that you expect them to do a catalog 4K for. This movie obviously has a bunch of Hunter S. Thompson references with Johnny Depp, and it's got the opening is identical essentially, and I love the way it's set up, because I come from what that is referencing. Like I mentioned a couple months ago when we talked about Fear and Loathing coming to 4K from Criterion. The first line of that movie is, "We were just past Barstow when the drugs began to take hold," and I'm from Barstow. And so the beginning part of this film looks like it was animated to be in Barstow. And it is such a beautiful depiction of just the most bleak desert that you can imagine. The animals in this have such a stylistic view that everybody is surprising, and yet it fits perfectly. Verbinski directs the hell out of this. I wish he would make more movies like this, because this is what he's great at. I love the performance from Johnny Depp in this. I love a lot of the vocal performances. The saloon scene, like there's so much in this that fulfills everything that you want to see in a great Western. It ticks off so many damn good boxes. I adore this movie. This movie is like a 5 out of 5, deserves all the accolades it could possibly have movie for me.
Yeah, and it does that thing that I love when animated movies do. It is filled to the brim with adult jokes.
Yep.
Like the one I always think of is the Plan B joke. And I'm like, man, that's such a great joke to put against.
Craig says he's never seen Rango. Come on, Craig, get that 4K ordered. I think you'll appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a great cast, and of course, it's the Pirates cast. Half of them are in it. It has the same composer, obviously the same director, but they do so great in it. And so, somebody jokingly said Lone Ranger, but I will say, to be controversial, that was in my honorable mentions when I was narrowing down. I actually really, really like Verbinski's Lone Ranger. I think it's a lot of fun.
I've yet to see it.
Yeah, it's got a lot of problems. There's no denying that. It's way too long, but that train sequence is great action. Like, there's a train sequence toward the end. It's fantastic. It's one of the things like Verbinski doesn't, I think, even though he's been an action director for so long, I feel like people don't actually talk about how well he directs action, because it seems so seamless. It seems so easy. And he does, like, I still think the first Pirates of the Caribbean has like great action set pieces.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think he could recapture it in 2 and 3. Yeah, I like 2 and 3. But I feel like that first one, he just like perfected that, how to properly like tell story through your visuals, through your action. You know, everything has a purpose. It's great. I'm a big fan of his. Cure for Wellness is still great. People should stop sleeping on it or hating on it because that movie's awesome. But I will move on. I will move away from Verbinski and go to my number 3, which Rango. If Rango has the shortest title I have, this is the longest. The Assassination of Jesse James by that coward Robert Ford. There we go.
Yeah, this is probably my biggest blind spot on this list.
Yeah, it's one I actually kind of have a hard time like recommending, especially because I haven't watched it since what's his name, Andrew Dominique put out Blonde, and Blonde is really, really, really horrible. And now I'm afraid to watch and say, was this really just bad, or did he just like screw up with Blonde that badly? Because one thing I think he does so well in Jesse James is it's a great character study of like, you know, romanticizing the West and putting a lot of nuance to, you know, even somebody's calling a coward in the title of the film. He's putting a lot of nuance. He's putting a lot of thought. And then I'm like, wow, he didn't do any of that for Marilyn Monroe. And I know there's Blonde fans, and they're like, you were completely wrong. And I probably am, but
there's already a couple in the comments. I still haven't seen Blonde either.
I really was excited for Blonde because of this movie. So maybe one day I should go back and give it a watch. But Jesse James is such a gorgeous film. Roger Deakins, who I'm sure has already showed up on this list plenty. I'd have to double check, but probably it may be some of the best cinematography he's ever put on film. People will argue about that, but they're like shots that just stay with you. They just feel very timeless, I guess is the word. Like they had this classical look to what you'd expect from Westerns, but they are done the best version of them they could be.
Yeah. I've been dying to see this for quite some time. There's been, as far as I know, there's been some rumors that Criterion might be putting this out eventually. I would love that. I still don't have this on any release, and I just need to see it. That's for sure.
All right, let's start your top 3.
My number 3, funny enough, we've had the same exact film in 2 different spots, and this one, if you've seen the movie, you'll understand why it aligns very much with your number 3. And I have to go with what I think is my... Oh, no, Nope was newer. Other than that, it's my second newest film on this list, which is Old Henry.
I love Old Henry.
Old Henry is starring Tim Blake Nelson, and it's a story of a man that is living in the middle of, I believe, Oklahoma, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. And he is holed up in a house. He's got a son with him, and there is... just a long background story to this individual that you see him live his life. And then at the end, there is an incredible shootout. And I don't want to say much else because anything else for this movie is a crazy spoiler. This movie deserves going into this blind and really only knowing what I just said. But Tim Blake Nelson will carry a film like no end if you give him a great script. And good God, did he do it for this. He gives a performance that is arguably better than almost any of these other films because he is this entire movie. And without him selling the character that he does here, this movie wouldn't work at all. He gets very little input from those around him to work off of. And that's kind of the way they wrote the script. But the way that this movie grows from you questioning why this person is in the middle of nowhere to the end of this movie going, holy shit, that story they just told is remarkable, is something to be seen to be believed. This is maybe on this whole list my favorite script other than my number 1. So yeah, this one is special to me. One I saw, I think this one came out in 2020, and it was one of those pandemic movies that hit hard. This is one that like Obama loved this movie. He put it on his best of the year list. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, Old Henry's out on 4K from Shout Factory. Great movie. Check it out.
I will say, I sadly did not get the hit of the a reveal that comes into the movie, just because I know that history. I'm trying to talk around it the best I can, so I was already kind of knew because I'm like, oh, okay, got it, cool, which is still great. That does not take away from it. The movie does not live or die on that reveal. So if you do know by chance, go see it anyway, because Tim, it's probably one of Tim Blake Nelson's best roles. Maybe it is.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I had a lot of love for him in Oh Brother and
it's great. Yeah,
and Holes. I think he's great in Holes,
he's
which I think
incredible
is
in
a
Holes.
completely underappreciated kids movie.
Honestly, Holes could have been on this list.
Yeah, technically you're right. It could have. I should have thought about that. I haven't seen it in a long time though.
All right, sir. Final
All
two,
right.
and we know one of them.
All right, so number 2, we won't spend much time on. It is Bone Tomahawk. Bone Tomahawk's just good. It's a good script. Kurt Russell's fantastic in it. Actually, everybody is, and I think Richard Jenkins put such a good performance in this. Like he is it's really the heart of this film. Yeah, I mean we talked about it a lot. Great film. Go see Bone Tomahawk.
I also have a feeling that my number 2 is your number 1. So let's reveal if that's the case first. My number 2 is another Sheridan film, and I want to talk about Hell or High Water.
That is my number 1.
I kind of thought it would be. All right. So Hell or High Water. This movie. First off, great performances from our 2 leads. God, their chemistry in this is palpable, and the way the writing for these 2 characters is so realistic for what they would do to each other. That is like the most endearing is a weird word, but it's like the part that sucked me in the very beginning of this.
They're believable as brothers. Like I think
exactly.
One of the things I quote a lot, I mean, my girlfriend quotes this movie too because she thinks it's just a good script. Is the part where he asked Ben Foster asked Chris Pine's character to go in and get him a Dr. Pepper, and he's like messing with this dude who's pulling out a gun. Chris Pine comes and like beats the dude up, and then Hans was like, "I asked for Dr. Pepper." He's like, "Well, I got you, Mr. Pibb. Mr. Pibb's for assholes."
Oh, I love this movie.
It's such a smart. Like the script is just phenomenal in it. There's so much I want to say because there's so much that I think hits so hard. Like there's a scene where Chris Pine talks about he's been poor his whole life and it's like a disease. I was like, I feel like that's somebody who actually kind of gets it, like understands it on a script level. What a lot of people who grow up in like rural poor areas like really experience and really go through, and kind of the thing a lot of them want is to take it back from the people who made them poor. And that's pretty much the premise of this movie is how can you be a Robin Hood like figure in a Texas town and still make those choices. It's just a good movie. It's I've seen it way too many times at this point.
One thing that we didn't really mention back when I talked about Sheridan for Wind River, Sheridan is incredible with tension, and this movie specifically, it's one of those things where a well-written script that needs to be tense will have lead up, and honestly, you can do it the other way. A great example: Uncut Gems starts at 100, like a couple minutes into the movie, and just ramps up the entire time. It's crazy. Totally get that movie is also a masterpiece. But Hell or High Water does it in a way that feels like true payoff. The tension that builds scene by scene by scene, the violence being realistic in this, the choices that are made in this movie being choices that you don't go, God, these characters are idiots, because you can see yourself in these situations making identical choices. That's the thing that gets me about so much of this. The script is, it's a logical way to advance the story. It's not something that feels far-fetched. It's not something that feels out of place. It's just justice in so many different meanings of that word, whether that be class justice, whether that means law-based justice, or whether that means, a couple bad decisions led to some things happening and it ruined somebody's day. There's so much that happens in this movie that's just action in equals action out, and it's devastating.
Yeah, and I think there was a conversation of whether this is an anti-Western, and I think it does hit on a lot of those themes because obviously another one, we have Jeff Bridges in here. And he is in a lot of ways the white hat good guy, in just about like every sense of the word. But he's really the harder one to root for because, he does constantly like make racist remarks to his partner, which he doesn't see as like a negative thing, but you kind of get as the film goes on, it really does bother his partner to hear things like that. And obviously, what the brothers do, does have some evil to it, but they're much easier to root for because you feel like they've just been dealt a bad hand at this point.
The bad hand thing, it comes into play in so many westerns, but not in a truly empathetic way. And the way that they approach the writing for this, I feel like you actually feel bad in every situation, and it's a very Robin Hood type of story, like Zach said. And so for me, in fact, probably for everybody that's in this chat, at least, none of us are so well off where we're that, sitting up in the ivory tower type of person. A lot of us have struggled and gone through lower class or lower middle class situations, and approaching situations that touch on classism is more and more common over the last 10 years. But this one does it in a very special way. And I think it does it in one of the more realistic ways. And so if you've never seen Hell or High Water on this entire list, this might be the one that I recommend to somebody. Like, if you haven't seen half the list, this is probably the one that I think everybody could find something in this thing to love.
And, I know there's plenty of Ben Foster fans here. I think this is arguable as one of his best roles, if not his best one.
Yeah.
He is so good in this movie.
Okay, so that was Zach's number one, and that's hard to argue with. And funny enough, I kind of did the same thing you did about the 2007 thing. I knew that there was going to be an obvious choice between those two, but I really wanted to talk about one for a minute. But I also put a caveat in parentheses next to this, because this movie doesn't get enough love, and I feel like it's finally about to, because Kino is about to release it on 4K. I think we have to talk about Brokeback Mountain at least a little bit. Okay. And this movie, God, where do you even start? Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal are two actors in this film that approach something so vulnerable in a way that they do not even hesitate to discuss, that it makes this movie so special for when it was released. Beyond that, the fact that it was directed by somebody that you really don't expect to tie into a film like this makes it even more special. But Brokeback Mountain getting a 4K release in 2024 from Kino Lorber, I feel like is finally justification for this movie getting slept on by so many people for so many years. And I kind of want to use this as a moment to say, everybody, when you see that announcement coming out from Kino in the next month, because I believe it's coming out at the end of June, get your ass out there and pre-order this movie. I don't really say that for a lot of things. This movie deserves support. This is a movie that is a risk for Kino. Obviously, it's an Oscar-winning movie. It's something that made a big splash when it came out for some good reasons and for some not great reasons. But please keep in mind, the performances in this are so respectful and so well done by two of the best in the business at the time. Obviously, for a lot of people, this is what clued them into Heath Ledger, because they slept on him before that. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see a lot of what that talent could have become. But Brokeback Mountain is one that fits the rest of my list in such a unique way. And I feel like I've hit a bunch of genres tonight. So I was glad that I could put it at number one here. But I also really want to shout out No Country for Old Men. I know that There Will Be Blood. It seems to get more love than No Country, so I really wanted to give a moment for No Country and say, to me, it is just simply one of the best movies over the last 20 years. I adore Anton Chigurh's character in this movie. Javier Bardem plays him in such a sinister way. Obviously, that's incredible. But really, like, Josh Brolin in this movie makes everything so grounded in that desperate realism that he encapsulates. It's something that, when he approaches decisions that he's making, he has a reason for all of them. And yeah, the movie doesn't end super well for him, obviously, but his life being what it is, it was a choice that he had to make. And the fact that this movie has no score is an incredible decision. It makes everything just so much more tense. But shout out to, out of all of these films, I've talked about 10, 11, 12 of them tonight. I don't think there's a shot in any of these movies that is more terrifying and more like singular than the moment in the beginning of No Country for Old Men with Javier Bardem choking out a policeman with rubber scuff marks all on the ground around him in a police station where he has killed a policeman and his legs are flopping everywhere. That shot alone is terrifying and sets up the rest of the film in such a way that if you're watching it for the first time, you have no idea that it's going to come across like that. And then you watch that scene where the camera pans up above him and you just go, oh shit, this is different. There's another.
This came right after they're pretty much their consensus 2 weakest films.
Yes.
With Intolerable Cruelty and Lady Killers. And wow, what a huge jump in quality. Like when you look at it in order, you're like, okay. And I feel like they've rode that high ever since. Like, I don't think they've reached that height again. But they've come close several times.
Yeah.
You had one of theirs like from 3 years later on here, and they've done plenty of great stuff, obviously. But yeah, No Country is it's good. And that's always the hard part to talk about it, because it's good. In a lot of ways, I think I think the consensus has changed, but I've always been frustrated over the years of the criticism of the ending, which I think is phenomenal.
Yeah,
where it gets the anticlimactic, and I'm like, yeah, that's the point. it's very anticlimactic, but still ends just as powerfully as if you got the catharsis, which you can get in plenty of other films. We've talked about plenty that you give you that catharsis, that give you that moment leaving at least satisfied, and it's been remembered because it didn't do that.
Yeah, there's so much I could say. I probably should have said more about Brokeback, but that movie, I think it was Sibner in the chat that said, is it a risk in 2024 to release this? I mean, the sad thing is, honestly, yes, because the sad thing is movies like this still need to be focused on and hit hard, because there's still a huge part of the country that just flat out others people in a way that doesn't need to exist. And we see, evidence of violence being poured out towards people that are in some of these groups that shouldn't be disparaged in any way. And so, yeah, I do think it's a risk to put out a movie like this, but Kino will release almost anything. But this is one that I think they're going to show a lot of love for. Keep in mind, with it coming out soon, it deserves all the support. Like I said, Brokeback is incredible. Still can't believe that Crash beat it at the Oscars. I don't ever want to talk about that again. That being said, it is a masterpiece, as well as No Country. I think it's up there in that regard for me, for sure.
I do want to note the great thing about Brokeback, probably the thing I appreciate about it most, is its soundtrack, and it makes me wish more labels would put CDs out.
Yes.
For anyone who has not saw it or knew, the guy who did Last of Us game and the show, Gustavo. Why do I have to get the names? I can't pronounce. I'd actually have to look at it, but he did it. It's a phenomenal soundtrack. He won an Oscar for it. I believe that's the only Oscar it won, if memory serves. So. But they were nominated a bunch, but it definitely
including
won.
For Best Picture. Yeah. Man, hell of a list for both of us tonight. I feel like we could have. Gosh, if I listed all of my honorable mentions, we'd probably have another list of 10 at least to go over.
This was one of the harder ones we've done. Like, even we did the King one last time, which I think there's still some people in the chat who are mad at me, but that's okay. That's fine. But this was much easier. This one was much harder, I should say. The King one was much easier than this one.
Man, what does everybody think? Share your thoughts of what should have been number one in the chat for sure. I'd love to hear about those. This is a conversation that I swear each one of these films could have an hour-long discussion at least about how it's different, how it's important, and keep in mind one thing that we mentioned at the beginning. A lot of people look at since 2000 being a tough time for Westerns and not being great. And yet here are Zach and I talking about having a list that could be 20 films long. There are always films in every genre that are out there being made that are good. It's rare that we see a full lull from an entire genre be awful for like a decade. There are always things out there that are going out there to push those boundaries. And so check it out. If there's something that you love, make sure you're not putting down the entire era and championing what is great about that period. Tons of comments about the 90s Westerns tonight. There's quite a few from the 90s that I would have loved to talk about. Zach and I could have made this just about Ravenous tonight if we wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that there's so much 90s stuff mentioned, because really, I think part of what's kind of put backlash is really started in Unforgiven. Like that, I mean, you can even like look at like trends. Westerns were way down. People didn't have as much interest in it. It's almost like Clint Eastwood's like, well, I did it, so good luck to the rest of you. But we've seen such a bounce back. Even modern day, the 90s still had a lot of great stuff that I think were very underappreciated, because I think beyond like Young Guns and Tombstone, after Unforgiven, it's a little, a lot of things getting overlooked.
Yeah, Tombstone is a big one. That would have been there for me if we were talking about 90s, of course. But yeah, Westerns being, a genre that has gone all over the world and had very, I don't know, like very prolific periods in Italy and in the US, of course. It's one of those genres that I am always impressed to see random indie filmmakers from other countries make it their own. And so like The Proposition is one of those moments where I'm like, God, this is amazing.
Yeah, and I mean it's always great. I always think of like, Westerns obviously a very American thing, for obvious reasons. Just like slasher films are a very American thing. And I'm always fascinated when other countries find their own way to incorporate their lives into it, because they are so deeply rooted in how they kind of deconstruct that and figure out a way to, I guess, put a different perspective on it. Because especially both Westerns and slashers kind of have a habit of being very tropey, being very formulaic in a lot of ways. And it's always exciting to see that kind of broken apart.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm trying to think. Obviously, Power of the Dog has gotten quite a few mentions, and especially in the last couple of minutes. It's a well-made movie. Obviously, Jane Campion is incredible, but I didn't love it on first watch. It may have just been I was not in the right mood to watch it. I also don't love Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, that's why I haven't seen it yet. I'm just like, I'm good. I'll see it someday, I guess.
Yeah, it's certainly a well-made movie. I want to give it another shot for sure. Stan says French filmmakers have reinvented the slasher genre.
Yeah, this new French Extremity is great. I love it.
Yeah, lots we could talk about for all of these, but no, I'm not a Cumberbitch, Craig. Yeah, like I said at the very beginning, everybody please go subscribe to They Live by Film. Appreciate you putting in the time to do this tonight. And obviously doing a list of 10 is a lot, especially on a genre that we both clearly like quite a bit. But beyond that, doing it for a genre that we could have gone in very different directions. Just thank you. I mean, there's so much that you could choose from, and so many. I mean, you saw it tonight with the 24 movies that we talked about or whatever. There's many different genres within the new neo-westerns and the modern westerns that we talked about. So I always like talking to you.
Oh no, I will talk westerns any point. So if you want to come back and talk 90s westerns, we can definitely do that.
Oh, we might have to do a 90s westerns episode in the future now. I feel like that'll be a handful of the same titles, but then I might be able to finally talk about The Quick and the Dead on here.
No, it'll be on mine too. So,
Oh,
It's
Zach,
ready.
this
It's
has
gonna show
been
up.
incredible. Everybody else, as usual, please like the video, share it with anybody. I never do the whole YouTube promoting thing. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I'm like a spit away from finally having 3,000 subs on here. That would be nice. I do want to shout out one thing, Mr. Dustin, who has been in the chat all night tonight, which isn't super common because he's usually out watching films on Thursday nights. Dustin is going to be the guest on Reconnected next week, so come back and check out Dustin live and in the flesh. I am so excited to talk to him for sure. Look at that. Craig says, Quick of the Dead is my number one 90s Westerns. Love that. Yeah, next week is going to be fun. I totally messed up last week when I said that coming out this week was my interview with Lunch Meat VHS because I had the Deaf Crocodile interview. So now next week, my interview with Lunch Meat is going to be up on the channel. Check that out. Other than that, it's been an incredible time behind the scenes. Can't wait to share everything going on with all of you. Zach, thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me again. I'm back anytime.
You know you will be back soon. And everybody else, we'll see you next Thursday. Have a good one. Thank you for watching The Disconnected. On the way out, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that you've liked the video, and that you've copied the link to be able to share it with someone else that may appreciate this.